When Ethan Hale walked through the doors of the Cross Mansion that gray February morning, he had no idea he was entering a war zone. Vivian Cross, once fearless, now paralyzed and furious about it, had shattered 23 assistants in 6 months. Not fired them, broke them, made them quit. Her weapon of choice? Cruelty sharp enough to cut bone. Ethan needed this job desperately. His 7-year-old daughter needed shoes, stability, and a father who didn't look defeated every morning. Vivian took one look at this tired single dad and smiled coldly. "You'll be gone in 3 days," she promised. Ethan simply nodded. "We'll see." If you're ready to see whether Ethan survives his first week, or if Vivian finally meets someone she can't break, stay with me until the end. And if this story reaches you, hit that like button and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far our story travels today. The mansion sat on a hill like a crown nobody wanted to wear anymore. It was all glass and steel and cold white surfaces that seemed designed to reflect light, but never warmth. From the circular driveway, Ethan Hale could see straight through the floor-to-ceiling windows into a living room that looked like a museum exhibit. Pristine, expensive, untouched. The kind of place where people were supposed to admire things, not actually live with them. He stood beside his rusted Honda Civic, checking his phone one more time. The email confirmation was still there. Start date: today. Position: live-in personal care assistant. Salary: enough to cover 3 months of back rent, Lily's overdue dental work, and maybe, a winter coat that actually fit her growing arms. Ethan closed his eyes and took a breath that tasted like rain and desperation. He'd sent out 47 applications in the last 2 months. This was the only callback. And according to the employment agency, the previous assistant had lasted exactly 11 days before walking out mid-shift, leaving Ms. Cross stranded in her wheelchair in the bathroom for 2 hours until the housekeeper arrived. Professional hazard, the agency director had said with a tight smile. Ms. Cross is demanding. That was 3 days ago. Now, standing in front of this glass fortress, Ethan wondered what demanding actually meant in practical terms. He grabbed his duffel bag from the back seat. Everything he owned that mattered fit in one bag now, and started up the stone walkway. The door opened before he could knock. A woman in her 60s stood there, dressed in a simple gray uniform, her expression carefully neutral. "Mr. Hale?" "Yes, ma'am." "I'm Gloria, housekeeper. You're the new assistant." It wasn't a question. Her eyes flicked over him, taking inventory: the worn jacket, the scuffed shoes, the 5 o'clock shadow that was closer to 7. "You know what you're getting into?" "I know what the job description said." Gloria's mouth twitched. Not quite a smile, but close. "The job description lies." She stepped back, gesturing him inside. "Miss Cross is in the sunroom. I'll take you to her." The interior of the mansion was exactly what Ethan expected. Beautiful and soulless. Marble floors, abstract art that probably cost more than his car, furniture that looked like it had never been sat on. Everything was white, or chrome, or glass. It felt like walking through a high-end furniture catalog. Gloria led him through a hallway lined with photographs, or rather, where photographs used to be. Ethan could see the faint outlines on the wall where frames had once hung. Now there were just empty spaces and tiny nail holes. "She took them all down after the accident," Gloria said quietly, noticing his gaze. Couldn't stand looking at who she used to be. They passed a kitchen that could have serviced a restaurant, a dining room with a table that seated 12, a home gym filled with equipment that looked brand new and completely unused. The house felt less like a home and more like a very expensive storage unit for broken dreams. Gloria stopped at a pair of French doors. Through the glass, Ethan could see a bright room filled with plants and natural light, and there, silhouetted against the windows, was a woman in a wheelchair. "Good luck, Mr. Hale," Gloria said. There was genuine sympathy in her voice. "You're going to need it." She opened the door and disappeared before Ethan could respond. He stepped into the sunroom. Vivian Cross sat with her back to him, facing the windows that overlooked a sprawling garden slowly surrendering to winter. Her wheelchair was sleek and expensive-looking, all black titanium and ergonomic design. She wore a silk robe that probably cost more than Ethan's monthly rent, and her dark hair was pulled back in a severe ponytail that emphasized the sharp angles of her face. She didn't turn around. "You're late," she said. Her voice was cultured, precise, and cold enough to frost glass. Ethan checked his watch. "I'm 7 minutes early, actually. If you're not here 15 minutes before your shift starts, you're late." Now she turned, and Ethan got his first full look at her. She was younger than he expected, mid-30s maybe. Beautiful in a way that seemed almost weaponized. High cheekbones, full lips, green eyes that could cut through steel. But there was something else there too, buried beneath the perfectly composed exterior. Something raw and angry and barely contained. She studied him with the intensity of a scientist examining a specimen. "Let me guess. Single father? Behind on bills, desperate enough to take a job that 23 other people have quit." Ethan kept his expression neutral. "Something like that." "How old is your child?" 7, daughter. "Adorable." The word dripped with sarcasm. "And where is she while you're here playing nursemaid?" "With a neighbor. After-school program." Vivian wheeled forward slightly, the movement smooth and controlled. "Let me save us both some time, Mr. Hale. I am not a sweet old lady who needs help knitting. I am not your redemption project. I'm not going to smile sweetly while you talk about the power of positive thinking or the importance of gratitude." She paused, her eyes boring into his. "I am, however, very good at finding people's breaking points. The last assistant cried. The one before that threw a coffee mug at me. The one before that just stopped showing up." "Which one lasted the longest?" Ethan asked. She blinked, surprised by the question. "What?" "Of the 23. Which one lasted the longest?" A slow, dangerous smile spread across her face. 17 days. Ex-military, thought his discipline training would help. The smile widened. It didn't. Ethan nodded slowly. "Good to know. That's it? No righteous speech about how you're different? No promises that you can handle anything I throw at you?" "Would you believe me if I gave one?" Vivian laughed, a sharp, humorless sound. "No, I wouldn't." She wheeled back to her position by the window. "Your room is on the second floor, east wing. Gloria will show you. You start at 6 tomorrow morning. I take my medication at 6:15. Coffee at 6:30, black, no sugar. Breakfast at 7. Then we begin physical therapy." "What does the physical therapy involve?" "Exercises designed by my therapist, who I fired last month because she was a cheerful idiot." Vivian didn't turn around. "You'll figure it out, or you won't. Either way, I'll give you until Friday before you quit." "Today's Monday." "I'm aware. So you think I'll make it 5 days?" "I think you'll try to make it 5 days. You need the money too badly to quit before then." She waved a dismissive hand. "Now leave. I've had enough forced interaction for one day." Ethan stayed where he was. "I have a question first." Vivian's shoulders tensed. "What?" "When you need help transferring from the chair to bed to the shower, wherever, what's your preferred method? Some people like the sliding board, some prefer direct lift, I prefer not needing help at all," Vivian snapped, whirling the chair around. "But since that's not an option anymore, we'll do whatever's fastest. I don't need you to be gentle. I'm not fragile." "Didn't say you were." She stared at him, something flickering in her eyes that Ethan couldn't quite read. Confusion, maybe, or suspicion. 6 a.m., she repeated. "Don't be late." Ethan nodded and left the sunroom, closing the French doors quietly behind him. Gloria was waiting in the hallway, arms crossed. "Well, did she make you cry yet?" "Not yet." "Give it time." Gloria started walking, and Ethan followed. "Let me show you your room, then I'll give you the real orientation, the one they don't put in the job description." The room was on the second floor, just as Vivian had said. It was smaller than the other spaces Ethan had seen, but still larger than the apartment he'd been evicted from last month. There was a bed, a dresser, a small desk, and a private bathroom. The walls were painted a soft gray, and there was actually a window with curtains that looked like a human had chosen them. "This was the last assistant's room," Gloria said, watching Ethan drop his duffel bag on the bed. "And the one before that? And the one before that." "How long have you worked here?" 8 years. I was here before the accident." Gloria leaned against the doorframe. You want to know what happened? Only if she'd want me to know. Well, Gloria's eyebrows rose slightly. Interesting answer. She paused, considering. Vivian Cross was a mountaineer, not a hobbyist, a professional. She'd climbed 6 of the 7 summits by the time she was 30, had sponsorships, documentary deals, the works. She was fearless, the kind of person who looked at Everest and saw a challenge, not a death sentence. Ethan sat on the edge of the bed, listening. 2 years ago, she was climbing in the Alps. Training run, nothing major. There was an avalanche. It swept her off the mountain. Gloria's voice went quiet. She fell 40 feet before the rope caught her, broke her back in 3 places, shattered her pelvis. The doctors said she'd never walk again. But she's doing physical therapy, Ethan said. So there's hope. There's always hope. But hope and probability are different things. Gloria straightened up. The accident broke more than her body, Mr. Hale. It broke everything she thought she was. And she can't forgive herself, or anyone else, for that. Is that why she goes through assistance so fast? She goes through assistance because she wants everyone to leave before she gets attached, before she has to admit she needs them. Gloria moved toward the door. You seem like a decent man. You probably think you can help her. But I've watched 23 decent people try and fail. So let me give you some advice. Don't try to fix her. Don't try to inspire her. Just do your job and keep your head down. You'll last longer that way. She left before Ethan could respond. He sat alone in the quiet room, listening to the house settle around him. Through the window, he could see the garden, and beyond that, the city lights beginning to glow as evening approached. Somewhere down there, Lily was finishing dinner with Mrs. Chen, probably asking when Daddy would be home. Ethan pulled out his phone and typed a quick message. First day went okay. I love you, Jellybean. See you this weekend. The response came back almost immediately. Love you too, Daddy. He set the phone aside and lay back on the bed, staring at the ceiling. 5 days. That's how long Vivian had given him. Ethan figured he could make it 5 days. He'd survived worse. The alarm went off at 5:30. Ethan showered, dressed in the plain polo shirt and khakis that the agency had said were appropriate attire, and made his way downstairs by 5:55. The house was dark and silent except for a light coming from the kitchen. Gloria was there, already preparing coffee. She glanced up when Ethan entered. You're actually on time. Seemed important. It is, to her anyway. Gloria handed him a mug of coffee. She'll be in the dining room. Medications are in the cabinet by the refrigerator. Top shelf, orange bottles. She takes 3 in the morning, pain management, anti-inflammatory, and muscle relaxant. Make sure she actually swallows them. Last assistant let her palm the pain pills because she said they made her foggy. Bad idea. Ethan nodded, memorizing the information. Anything else? Yeah, she'll probably try to make you quit today. It's her pattern. First day, she tests boundaries. Second day, she pushes. Third day, she goes for blood. Gloria's expression was grim. Most people don't make it to day 4. Noted. He found the medications, checked the labels twice, and carried them with a glass of water to the dining room. Vivian was already there, positioned at the head of the long table, staring at her phone. She didn't look up when Ethan entered. You're late, she said. Ethan checked his watch. It's 6:14. I said 6:15 for medications. That means you should be here at 6:14 to prepare them. She finally looked up, her green eyes sharp and challenging. Or is precision too much to ask? Ethan set the pills and water on the table in front of her. My mistake. I'll be here at 6:14 tomorrow. She stared at him, clearly expecting pushback. When she didn't get it, something flickered across her face. Disappointment, maybe. She picked up the pills and examined them. Did Gloria tell you to watch me take these? She mentioned it. And did she tell you why? She said the last assistant let you skip the pain medication. The last assistant was an idiot who believed everything I said. Vivian tossed the pills back with the water, swallowing them in one practiced motion. She opened her mouth wide, lifting her tongue. See? All gone. Feel free to check my pockets next time if you don't trust me. Ethan stayed quiet, just watching. Vivian wheeled back from the table. Coffee, black, no sugar, kitchen's that way in case you forgot. He He returned with the coffee, black, no sugar, exactly as requested, and set it in front of her. She took a sip, made a face, and pushed it away. It's cold. Ethan touched the side of the mug. It was hot enough to burn. It's not cold. Are you arguing with me about my own coffee? I'm telling you a fact. The coffee is hot. Vivian's eyes narrowed. I want a fresh cup. Hotter. You want me to microwave this one or make a new pot? I want you to... She stopped, lips pressing into a thin line. Fine. Microwave it 20 seconds. Ethan took the mug back to the kitchen, counted to 20 in his head without actually heating anything, and returned. He set it down in front of her. She took another sip. Better. It was exactly the same temperature. They stared at each other across the table. Vivian's expression was cold, calculating. Ethan kept his face neutral. Breakfast is at 7, she finally said. I eat in here. Eggs scrambled, slightly runny, wheat toast, lightly buttered, fresh fruit if there is any. Gloria preps everything. You just need to bring it. Understood. Then why are you still standing there? Because it's 6:20 and you said physical therapy starts after breakfast. I said we begin physical therapy. I didn't say we'd actually do any. Vivian wheeled toward the living room. I'll be on the couch. Bring breakfast when it's ready. And Mr. Hale? Yes? She glanced back over her shoulder. Try not to burn the toast. The last assistant did that 4 times in 3 days. It was pathetic. Ethan spent the next 40 minutes helping Gloria prepare breakfast while she provided a running commentary on Vivian's various requirements, preferences, and manipulative tactics. She'll tell you the eggs are wrong even if they're perfect, Gloria said, whisking said eggs in a bowl. She'll say the toast is too brown or not brown enough. She'll complain about the coffee, the temperature of the room, the way you're breathing too loud. None of it's real. She's just looking for a reaction. What kind of reaction? Any kind. Anger, frustration, hurt feelings. Doesn't matter. She just wants to know she can get to you. Gloria poured the eggs into a hot pan. The ones who try to defend themselves always lose. The ones who try to be cheerful and positive, they lose even faster. She can smell forced optimism from a mile away. So what works? Gloria glanced at him while stirring the eggs. In 8 years, I've seen exactly 2 approaches that didn't completely fail. 1. Total professional detachment. Don't react, don't engage, just do the job like a robot. An assistant named Marcus lasted 12 days that way before the isolation drove him crazy. 2. Complete honesty without cruelty. Don't coddle her, don't enable her, but don't attack her either. An assistant named Sarah tried that. Lasted 17 days. The ex-military one? No, different Sarah. The military guy's name was Douglas. He lasted 14 days trying to treat her like a drill sergeant would. Firm boundaries, no nonsense. She ate him alive. Gloria plated the eggs. There's your breakfast. Go see which approach you land on. Ethan carried the breakfast tray to the living room. Vivian was on the couch, positioned so she could transfer from her wheelchair easily. She was reading something on a tablet and didn't look up when Ethan set the tray on the coffee table. Put it on the side table, she said without glancing over. The side table is too high. You won't be able to reach it comfortably. Are you my occupational therapist now? No, just pointing out logistics. Vivian finally looked at him. The side table, Mr. Hale? I'll manage. Ethan moved the tray to the side table. He watched as Vivian reached for it and immediately realized what he'd already known. The angle was wrong. The height was awkward. She managed to get the fork, but her face tightened with the effort. She took a bite of eggs, chewed, swallowed. They're wrong, she said flatly. Wrong how? Too runny. You said slightly runny. This is very runny, not slightly runny. She set the fork down. Make them again. Ethan looked at the eggs. They were perfect. Exactly the soft, creamy consistency she'd requested. They're exactly what you asked for. I'm telling you they're wrong. And I'm telling you they're not. Vivian's eyes flashed dangerously. Excuse me? You asked for scrambled eggs, slightly runny. These are scrambled eggs, slightly runny. Ethan kept his voice level. If you don't like them, that's different from them being wrong. But I'm not going back to remake a breakfast that matches your original instructions. The silence stretched out like a wire pulled tight. Vivian stared at him with an expression that could have melted steel. Do you know how many assistants have lasted more than a day after talking to me like that? No. 0. She smiled coldly. Pack your things, Mr. Hale. You're done. No, I'm not. Her smile faltered. I just fired you. You didn't fire me. You told me to pack my things. Ethan sat down in the chair across from her, uninvited, unprecedented. If you want me gone, you'll need to officially terminate my employment. Call the agency, fill out the paperwork, make it formal. Until then, I'm here, and I'm doing the job I was hired to do. Vivian's face went through several emotions in rapid succession: shock, anger, confusion, and something that might have been respect if she'd been capable of feeling it. You're insane, she finally said. I'm practical. I need this job. My daughter needs me to have this job. So you're going to have to do more than bark orders and insult breakfast if you actually want me to leave. I could make your life hell? You're already trying to. Another long silence. Then Vivian picked up her fork and took another bite of eggs. They're still too runny, she muttered, but she kept eating. Ethan sat back in the chair and waited. When Vivian finished breakfast, every bite, despite her complaints, she pushed the tray away and looked at him with renewed interest. Physical therapy. Fine. You want to do your job? Let's see if you can actually handle it. She led him to the home gym, a large room filled with equipment that looked barely used. There was a weight bench, resistance bands, a set of parallel bars, and various other devices Ethan recognized from his brief research the night before. My therapist left a regimen, Vivian said, wheeling to a cabinet and pulling out a binder. She threw it at Ethan. He caught it. 30 minutes of stretching and resistance work, then 15 minutes on the parallel bars, then a series of transfers to practice maintaining balance. Ethan opened the binder and skimmed the pages. The exercises were detailed, progressive, designed to slowly rebuild strength and potentially restore some mobility. They also looked incredibly painful. When did you last do these? He asked. 3 weeks ago, before I fired the therapist. Why'd you fire her? Because she smiled too much. Vivian positioned herself near the mat on the floor. Are we doing this, or are you going to stand there asking stupid questions? The next hour and a half was brutal. Vivian fought him on every exercise. She claimed the stretches were painful when Ethan knew they weren't being pushed hard enough. She said she couldn't do certain movements, then accidentally proved herself wrong. She complained about the temperature, the lighting, the angle of the mat, the way Ethan was breathing. But she did the work. Gritting her teeth, face flushed with effort, fingers trembling with strain, she did the work. When they got to the parallel bars, she refused. I'm done, she said flatly, wiping sweat from her forehead. That's enough for today. Ethan checked the binder. The regimen says 15 minutes on the bars. I don't care what the regimen says, I'm done. Why? Because I said so. Ethan closed the binder and sat down on the mat beside her wheelchair. Okay? Vivian blinked. Okay? Yeah? You're done. We'll try again tomorrow. She stared at him suspiciously. You're not going to push me? Try to inspire me with some speech about my potential? Nope. Why not? Because you just worked harder than you have in 3 weeks. Pushing you past that right now would be stupid. Ethan stood up. Besides, the point isn't to force you to walk. The point is to maintain what function you have and maybe build on it. You're not going to do that if I treat every session like a battle. Vivian's expression was unreadable. The therapist always pushed the bars. And you fired her. Because she was annoying. Or because she treated you like a project to complete instead of a person doing hard work. Ethan picked up the binder. Same time tomorrow? For a moment, Vivian just looked at him. Then she nodded slowly. Same time tomorrow. The rest of the day followed a similar pattern. Vivian testing, pushing, prodding, looking for weakness, for anger, for any crack she could exploit. Ethan didn't give her one. When she complained about lunch, he offered to make something different, but didn't apologize for the original meal. When she demanded he reorganize her medications, he did it, but asked her to confirm the new system so they were both clear. When she accidentally knocked over a glass of water, he cleaned it up without comment and brought her a new one. By dinner, Vivian looked exhausted and frustrated. "You're not normal," she said as Ethan brought her evening medications. "Normal people get angry. Normal people push back or break down or storm out. I'm not normal people." Clearly, she took her pills, not bothering with the performative mouth check this time. "Why do you need this job so badly? Gloria said you're a single father. What happened to the mother?" The question landed like a punch. Ethan's face remained neutral, but something in his eyes shifted. "She died." "How?" "Cancer. Aggressive. She fought for 18 months. Lily was 5 when we lost her." Vivian's expression flickered. Guilt, maybe, or recognition of shared pain. "I'm sorry." "So am I." Ethan collected her dinner dishes. "Will you need help transferring to bed tonight, or can you manage?" She watched him for a long moment. "I can manage." "Then I'll see you at 6:14 tomorrow." "Mr. Hale?" He paused at the door. "You survived day 1, Vivian said quietly. "That's further than I expected." Ethan looked back at her. "I told you I'd see you Friday." "We'll see," Vivian echoed his words from the morning. But there was something different in her tone now. Less certainty, less control. Ethan went to his room, called Lily, and spent 30 minutes listening to her talk about school and playground drama and the spelling test she'd aced. After they hung up, he lay in bed and stared at the ceiling. 1 day down, 4 to go. At least according to Vivian's timeline. Ethan was starting to think he might surprise her. The next 3 days were a carefully choreographed war. Vivian escalated. She threw a bottle of water at the wall just inches from Ethan's head. She refused to eat breakfast until he'd remade it 3 times. She demanded medication at random hours, then claimed she'd already taken it when she hadn't. She insulted his clothes, his haircut, his pathetic car that she could see from her window. Ethan didn't bite. He cleaned up the water without commenting on where it landed. He made breakfast 3 times and then calmly explained he wouldn't make it a 4th, so she could eat what was there or skip the meal entirely. He kept detailed logs of medication times, so when she claimed she'd taken her pills, he could show her the written record. When she insulted his car, he just said, "Yeah, it runs though," and moved on. The physical therapy sessions were where things got intense. On day 3, Vivian finally attempted the parallel bars. She gripped the rails with white-knuckled hands and pulled herself up, not to standing, but to a position where her legs were supporting some of her weight. She held it for 5 seconds before her arms gave out and she dropped back into the wheelchair. She immediately wheeled away from the bars, her face flushed, breathing hard. "That's enough." "That was good," Ethan said. Don't. Don't what? Don't patronize me with fake encouragement." Vivian's voice was sharp. 5 seconds is nothing. It's pathetic. 5 seconds is 5 seconds more than you've done in 3 weeks. That's not patronizing, that's mathematics. She glared at him. "I used to climb mountains." "I know." "I used to carry 60-pound packs up vertical cliffs." "I know. And now I can't even hold myself up on a rail for 10 seconds. Her voice cracked slightly. "So don't tell me 5 seconds is good." Ethan pulled up a chair and sat down in front of her. "You're right. 5 seconds isn't good compared to who you were before. But that's not the comparison that matters. The comparison that matters is 5 seconds today versus 0 seconds yesterday. That's the only measurement that's real right now." Vivian's jaw tightened. "I don't want to hear this." "I know, but you're going to anyway." Ethan leaned forward slightly. "You can spend every day comparing yourself to the person you were before the accident, and you'll lose every single time. Or you can start comparing yourself to who you were yesterday. That's the only race you can actually win." "You sound like a greeting card." "Maybe. But I'm also right." They stared at each other. Vivian's eyes were bright, with anger, frustration, or unshed tears. Ethan couldn't tell. "Tomorrow," she finally said, her voice tight. "We'll try again tomorrow." "Okay." She wheeled past him toward the door, then stopped. "Mr. Hale?" "Yes?" "It's Thursday." Ethan smiled slightly. "I know. You've made it 4 days." "I have." Vivian glanced back over her shoulder. "You're more stubborn than I gave you credit for." I have a 7-year-old daughter. Stubbornness is a job requirement. For the first time since Ethan had met her, Vivian's expression softened. Just a fraction, just for a moment. Then the mask was back. Tomorrow, 6:14. I'll be there. That night, alone in his room, Ethan allowed himself to feel the weight of the past 4 days. His shoulders ached from helping Vivian transfer. His jaw hurt from keeping his expression neutral through dozens of provocations. His heart was heavy with the constant reminders of loss, hers and his own. But he'd made it 4 days, and tomorrow would be Friday. Friday morning arrived cold and gray with rain tapping against the windows like nervous fingers. Ethan was in the dining room at 6:14. Vivian was already there, waiting. She looked different somehow, tired maybe, or just less armored than usual. Medications, she said. Ethan handed them over without comment. She took them without complaint. Coffee, she said. He brought it. She drank it. Didn't mention the temperature. Breakfast, she said. He brought it. She ate it. Said nothing about the eggs. They sat in unusual silence, the rain providing a gentle soundtrack. Finally, Vivian spoke. You've survived a week. Technically 5 days. Close enough. She pushed her empty plate away. I'll admit I didn't think you'd make it this far. What changed your mind? You didn't break. Everyone else broke. She studied him with those sharp green eyes. Why didn't you break, Mr. Hale? Ethan considered the question carefully. Because breaking would mean leaving, and leaving would mean failing my daughter. I've already failed her once, when I couldn't save her mother. I'm not going to fail her again by quitting a job just because it's hard. Vivian's expression shifted, something vulnerable breaking through the surface. What was her name? Your wife? Sarah. How long ago? 2 years. Almost exactly. Ethan's voice was steady, but his hands weren't. Lily doesn't remember much about her now. She was so young. Sometimes I catch her looking at photos like she's studying a stranger. That must be hard. Everything's hard. You just choose which hard you can live with. Ethan met Vivian's gaze. You asked why I didn't break. That's why. Because this kind of hard. You testing me, pushing me, trying to make me quit. This doesn't even rank in the top 10 hardest things I've dealt with. Vivian was quiet for a long moment. I had a climbing partner once. His name was Marcus. We'd done 3 summits together, always planned to do all 7. After the accident, she trailed off, staring at her hands. He visited me once in the hospital, brought flowers, said all the right things. Then he left and I never heard from him again. Turns out when you're the fearless leader, people only stick around while you're still fearless. That wasn't a friend, Ethan said. That was someone who liked the idea of you. Maybe everyone just liked the idea of me. That's possible, but it doesn't mean everyone will. Vivian looked up sharply. Are you saying you don't just like the idea of me? I'm saying I don't know you well enough to like or dislike you yet. I just know you're working through something hard, and you're trying to do it alone because you think needing help makes you weak. Ethan stood up, collecting the breakfast dishes. For what it's worth, I think that's stupid, but I also think you'll figure it out eventually. He left the dining room before Vivian could respond, carrying her words with him like stones in his pocket. The physical therapy session that day was different. Vivian approached the parallel bars without being asked. She gripped the rails, pulled herself up, and held the position, 6 seconds this time instead of 5. When she dropped back down, breathing hard, she didn't wheel away. She rested for 2 minutes, then pulled herself up again. 6 seconds again. 8 is the goal, she said, voice strained. By next Friday. 8 seconds. Ethan nodded. Okay. 8 seconds by next Friday. They did the rest of the exercises in near silence, but it was a different quality of silence than before. Less hostile, more focused. When they finished, Vivian wheeled herself to the window and stared out at the rain-soaked garden. Mr. Hale? Yes? Don't call the agency. Ethan paused in putting away the equipment. Why would I call the agency? Because today's Friday. My prediction was that you'd make it to Friday. She turned to look at him. I thought you'd use my wrong prediction as an excuse to prove something. Call them up, demand an apology, gloat. I don't need to gloat. I just need to be here Monday morning at 6:14. Vivian studied him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Monday, 6:14. I'll be there. As Ethan left the gym, he heard Vivian whisper to herself, "Maybe you will." But when he glanced back, she was already wheeling toward the door, her expression carefully neutral again. The armor was back, but now Ethan had seen what was underneath, and it wasn't what he'd expected. It wasn't cruelty or coldness or calculated malice. It was fear. Fear of needing people. Fear of being left. Fear of being seen as broken. And Ethan understood fear. He'd spent 2 years swimming in it after Sarah died. Fear that he couldn't raise Lily alone. Fear that he'd fail her. Fear that the grief would swallow them both. He'd survived that fear by simply showing up every day and doing the next right thing. Maybe that's all Vivian needed too. Someone who would show up. Someone who wouldn't leave just because things got hard. That evening, Ethan sat in his room and called Lily. "Daddy, I miss you so much. I miss you too, Jellybean. Tell me about your week." She launched into a detailed story about a playground conflict involving shared swing time and the complex diplomacy required to resolve it. Ethan listened, smiling, his heart simultaneously breaking and healing with every word. "Daddy?" Lily said when she'd finished her story. "Yeah?" "Mrs. Chen says you're working at a big house with a sad lady. Is the lady nice?" Ethan thought about that. "She's working on being okay. She's had some hard things happen." "Like when Mommy died?" The question hit him square in the chest. "Yeah, Jellybean, like that." "You should give her a hug. Hugs help when things are hard." "I don't think she's a hug person." "Everyone's a hug person, Daddy. Some people just forgot." Ethan closed his eyes, missing his daughter so intensely it physically hurt. "You're pretty smart, you know that?" "I know," she giggled. "Love you, Daddy." "Love you too. See you tomorrow." After they hung up, Ethan lay in bed and stared at the ceiling. Rain pattered against the window, steady and rhythmic. He'd survived the first week, and somehow, impossibly, he thought he might survive the second. But survival wasn't the goal anymore. Ethan was starting to realize that. The goal was something different, something harder. The goal was staying long enough to prove to Vivian that she was worth staying for. Not as a project, not as a paycheck, not as penance, just as a person. A person who'd lost something precious and was trying to figure out how to keep living anyway. Ethan understood that journey. He was still on it himself. Maybe they both were. And maybe that was exactly why he was here. The second week began with an unexpected shift in weather, and in Vivian. Monday morning arrived bright and cold, the kind of February day where everything looks sharper, clearer, like the world has been outlined in ink. Ethan was in the dining room at 6:13, setting out medications and waiting. Vivian wheeled in at 6:15 exactly. "You're early," she said. "I'm on time." "No, you're early. I said 6:15. But there was no edge to her voice, just observation. She took her medications without theater, drank her coffee without complaint, ate her breakfast in silence. When they moved to the gym for physical therapy, she didn't test him or push back. She just worked, stretches, resistance bands, floor exercises, with a focus that felt almost aggressive. When they reached the parallel bars, she gripped them and pulled herself up. 7 seconds this time, then 8, then back to 6 as her arms trembled with fatigue. "That's progress," Ethan said. "It's inconsistent." Consistent progress would be suspicious. Bodies don't work that way. Vivian lowered herself back into the wheelchair, breathing hard. "I want to try something different tomorrow." "What kind of different?" "More weight-bearing work, less stretching." She wiped sweat from her forehead. The therapist always front-loaded stretching because she said it was important for safety. But I think she was just scared I'd push too hard and blame her if something went wrong. Was she wrong to be scared of that? Vivian's lips twitched, not quite a smile, but close. "Probably not. But I'm asking you, not her. Will you help me push harder?" Ethan considered this carefully. "I'll help you push smarter. Harder isn't always better. It's just harder. But if you want to adjust the regimen, we can do that. With parameters." Parameters. You tell me honestly when something hurts in a bad way versus a challenging way. You don't hide pain to prove a point. And if I say we're done for the day, You listen. He met her gaze steadily. Those are the terms. Vivian studied him, something calculating in her expression. Then she nodded. Agreed. Then we'll try your approach tomorrow, but today we finish the regular routine. She didn't argue, which felt like its own kind of victory. The days began to develop a rhythm. 6:14, medications, breakfast, therapy, lunch, afternoon rest, dinner, evening routine. It was predictable in a way that should have been boring, but somehow wasn't. Because within that structure, small things were changing. Vivian stopped throwing things. She stopped making impossible demands. She still had sharp edges, comments that could cut, silences that felt loaded. But the cruelty was less random now, less designed to wound. On Wednesday, Ethan arrived in the dining room to find Vivian already reading something on her tablet, her expression unusually focused. "What are you reading?" he asked as he set down her medications. She glanced up, startled, like she'd forgotten someone else could enter the room. An article about adaptive climbing. There's a woman who climbed El Capitan after losing her legs in a car accident. She used specialized equipment and a support team. Vivian's voice was carefully neutral. It's interesting. Is that something you'd want to try? No. The answer came too quickly, too sharp, then softer. I don't know, maybe. The idea of being on a rock face again. She trailed off, staring at the screen. It sounds impossible. Most good things do at first. Vivian looked up at him. Do you always talk in fortune cookie wisdom, or is this a special performance for me? Just stating facts. Ethan sat down across from her. This had become routine now, these shared breakfasts. When Sarah got sick, the idea of raising Lily alone sounded impossible. The idea of getting through a single day without breaking down sounded impossible. But you do one impossible thing, then another, and eventually you realize impossible just means really hard. That's different. How? Because you had to do it. You didn't have a choice. Neither do you, Ethan said quietly. You can choose to stay stuck, or you can choose to move forward, but you can't choose to go back to who you were before. That option doesn't exist anymore. Vivian's face tightened. You think I don't know that? I think you know it intellectually, but emotionally, you're still fighting it. He gestured at the tablet. Reading about adaptive climbing is good. It means part of you is looking forward instead of backward, but another part of you is terrified of trying and failing, so you tell yourself it's impossible before you even start. And what makes you such an expert on what I'm thinking? Because I did the exact same thing after Sarah died. Ethan's voice was steady, but his eyes held old pain. I told myself I couldn't be both mom and dad to Lily. I told myself I'd screw it up, that she'd be better off with my sister or Sarah's parents. I had 100 reasons why I couldn't do it, and every single one of them was just fear wearing a logical costume. Vivian was quiet for a long moment. What changed your mind? Lily did. She was 6 years old, and she looked at me one morning and said, Daddy, I'm sad, but I'm not broken. Are you broken? And I realized she was asking me to choose, stay broken, or choose to heal. He paused. I chose to heal. Not because I wasn't scared, but because she deserved a father who was willing to try. I don't have a 6-year-old to inspire me. No, but you have yourself, and that's enough if you let it be. Vivian stared at him, her expression unreadable. Then she pushed the tablet away. Eat your breakfast, Mr. Hale. You're getting philosophical before caffeine, and it's concerning. But Ethan noticed she didn't close the article. Thursday's therapy session was brutal in the best way. Vivian had mapped out a new routine, more time on the bars, added resistance work, exercises that challenged her core stability. Ethan adjusted some of her more aggressive ideas, but let her push boundaries in ways that felt calculated rather than reckless. She held herself on the parallel bars for 10 seconds, then 12, then crashed back to 8 as exhaustion set in. But the fire in her eyes was different now, less rage, more determination. I want to try standing, she said suddenly. Ethan looked up from where he was logging her progress. Standing? Not walking, just standing, full weight bearing, even if it's only for a second. Her jaw was set. I need to know if I can do it. Your therapist's notes say you're not ready for that yet. My therapist isn't here, you are. Vivian wheeled closer to the bars. And before you give me a speech about safety, I'll sign whatever liability waiver you want. I just need to try. Ethan considered this. The medical note said Vivian had some sensation in her legs. Incomplete spinal injury, potential for partial recovery, but no guarantees. Standing was a milestone, but it was also a risk. If she couldn't do it, if her legs buckled completely, it could shatter the fragile progress she'd been building. But if she could do it... One attempt, Ethan said. I'll be right behind you for support. And if your legs start to give way, you don't fight me. You let me catch you. Agreed? Agreed. They positioned her at the bars. Ethan stood close behind her, hands ready, but not touching. Vivian gripped the rails with white-knuckled intensity. On 3, she said. 1, 2... She pulled herself up. For a moment, nothing happened. Her arms bore all the weight, her legs hanging useless beneath her. Then something shifted. Her knees locked. Her feet pressed flat against the floor. She was standing, not fully. Her arms still carried most of the load through the bars, but her legs were supporting some weight, her body vertical, her spine straight. Vivian's breath came in short, sharp gasps. Tears streamed down her face, but she didn't make a sound. 3 seconds. 5, 8. At 10 seconds, her legs began to shake violently. That's enough, Ethan said firmly. Down. She lowered herself back into the wheelchair, arms trembling, tears still falling. She covered her face with her hands. I did it, she whispered. I actually did it. You did. I was standing. You were. Vivian dropped her hands, her face wet and red and completely unguarded. I thought I'd never stand again. The doctors said, they said probably not, that I should prepare for permanent paralysis. And I just stood. You did. She laughed, a broken, watery sound that might have been a sob. Why aren't you more excited? I just stood for the first time in 2 years and you're acting like it's no big deal. It's a huge deal. Ethan knelt down so they were eye level. But I'm not surprised. You've been working toward this for weeks, whether you knew it or not. Every stretch, every exercise, every second on those bars, it was all building to this. Vivian wiped her eyes, trying to compose herself. The last assistant would have made a speech, talked about miracles and perseverance, and I'm not interested in miracles. I'm interested in work paying off. Ethan stood. You did the work. This is the result. Be proud of that. She stared up at him, something shifting in her expression. You're a very strange man, Mr. Hale. So I've been told. That evening, Vivian asked Ethan to eat dinner with her, not as part of his duties, but as something else. What exactly neither of them seemed ready to name. They sat in the dining room, the long table feeling less cavernous with both of them there. Gloria had prepared chicken marsala, and for once Vivian didn't pick at her food or complain about temperature or seasoning. She just ate. Tell me about Lily, Vivian said suddenly. What's she like? Ethan smiled. She's 7 going on 40, smart as hell, stubborn as a mule, and completely fearless about things she should probably be cautious about. Like her father? Like both her parents, I think. Sarah was a teacher, 3rd grade. She had this way of making every kid feel like they were capable of anything. Lily got that from her. His smile turned sad. She also got Sarah's laugh. Sometimes I hear it and forget for a second that Sarah's gone. Vivian was quiet, pushing food around her plate. Do you have pictures? Ethan pulled out his phone and scrolled to his photos. He handed it to Vivian. She looked at the screen, a photo of Lily at a park, hanging upside down from monkey bars, grinning at the camera. She looks happy. She is. Most days. Ethan took the phone back. Some days are harder. Anniversaries, Mother's Day, random Tuesdays when something reminds her that other kids have moms and she doesn't, but she's resilient. You're lucky. I know. Vivian met his eyes. I didn't mean that cruelly. I meant you're lucky to have someone who makes you want to keep going. Some of us don't have that. You could. Could what? Have people who make you want to keep going. Ethan set his fork down. Gloria's been here 8 years. She hasn't left. That means something. Gloria's paid to be here. She's paid to housekeep. She's not paid to check on you at night when you can't sleep, or to make your favorite foods when you're having a bad day, or to defend you to every new assistant who asks if you're really as difficult as they've heard. Ethan leaned forward slightly. You have people. You just don't let yourself see it. Vivian's jaw tightened. You don't know what it's like to go from being someone people admired to someone they pity, from being strong to being human? Broken. Those aren't the same thing, aren't they? Vivian's voice rose. I can't climb anymore. I can't walk without help. I can't even get out of bed some mornings without calling for assistance. How is that not broken? Because broken means unfixable. You're not unfixable. You're just different now. Ethan kept his voice calm. And different isn't the same as less than. Vivian stared at him, her eyes bright with unshed tears. You make it sound so simple. It's not simple. It's the hardest thing in the world, but it's also true. She looked away, her throat working. I should transfer to the couch. I'm tired. Ethan stood and helped her transfer, a process that had become smooth with repetition, her body and his working together without needing discussion. When she was settled on the couch, he moved to leave. Mr. Hale? He paused. Thank you, Vivian said quietly. For today. For not making a big deal out of it, but also for understanding that it was one. You're welcome. And Mr. Hale? You can call me Vivian. We're past the point of formality. Ethan nodded. Then you should probably call me Ethan. A small smile touched her lips, the first real one he'd seen. Good night, Ethan. Good night, Vivian. Friday brought an unexpected complication. Ethan woke to his phone buzzing at 5 a.m. He grabbed it groggily, saw Mrs. Chen's name on the screen, and felt his heart drop. Mrs. Chen? Is everything okay? Ethan, I'm so sorry to call this early. It's my daughter. She's in labor, 3 weeks early. I need to drive to Sacramento right away. I can't watch Lily today. Ethan sat up, fully awake now. Is your daughter okay? She's fine. The baby's fine, but I need to be there. Can you find someone else to watch Lily? Ethan ran through options in his head. His sister was in Portland. Sarah's parents were in Phoenix. Every other backup had fallen through over the past few months as his job situation became increasingly unstable. I'll figure something out, he said. Thank you for calling, and congratulations on the grandbaby. After Mrs. Chen hung up, Ethan sat in the dark room and tried to think. It was Friday. Lily didn't have school, and the after-school program was closed. Every daycare he'd contacted had waiting lists. Every babysitter he knew was either unavailable or too expensive, which left exactly one option. At 6:14, Ethan walked into the dining room with medications, coffee, and a problem he had no idea how to solve. Vivian took one look at his face and frowned. What's wrong? Nothing. Everything's fine. You're a terrible liar. She took her pills and fixed him with that sharp green gaze. Tell me. Ethan hesitated, then decided honesty was simpler than evasion. My neighbor who watches my daughter just called. Family emergency. She has to leave town today, and I don't have backup childcare. So call the agency. Take the day off. I can't. I've only been here 2 weeks. I can't start asking for days off already. Vivian was quiet for a moment, studying him. How old did you say your daughter is? 7. And what's she like? Smart. Energetic, talks a lot. Ethan rubbed his face. I'll figure something out. I just need to make some calls. Or, Vivian said slowly, you could bring her here. Ethan looked up sharply. What? Bring her here. For the day. Vivian's expression was carefully neutral. This house is too big for 2 people anyway, and Gloria will be thrilled. She's been complaining about how quiet it is since her grandkids moved to Portland. Vivian, I can't. Why not? You live here. You work here. Presumably your daughter won't burn the place down or steal the silverware. She raised an eyebrow. Unless there's something you haven't told me about her. No, she's great, but you think I can't handle a 7-year-old because I'm in a wheelchair? No, I think you told me on day 1 that you don't like kids. Vivian's face flickered with something that might have been embarrassment. I said that to scare you off. It didn't work. She picked up her coffee. Bring your daughter. We'll survive one day. Are you sure? Ethan, I just stood for the first time in 2 years. I think I can manage a conversation with a child. But there was tension in her voice, uncertainty beneath the confidence. Still, it was a solution, and Ethan was out of alternatives. Okay, he said. Thank you. I'll go pick her up after breakfast. Vivian nodded, then turned her attention to her tablet. But Ethan noticed her hand was shaking slightly as she scrolled. An hour later, Ethan pulled up to Mrs. Chen's apartment with his stomach in knots. He'd texted Lily to explain the situation, but 7-year-olds weren't always great with sudden changes in routine. Lily burst out the front door before he could even get out of the car, backpack bouncing on her shoulders, her face lit up with excitement. Daddy, Mrs. Chen said I get to see where you work. Is it really a castle? It's a mansion, Jellybean, not quite a castle. Close enough? She climbed into the car and buckled herself in with practiced efficiency. Is the sad lady there? Ethan's heart squeezed. Her name is Vivian, and yes, she's there. But Lily, I need you to listen carefully, okay? Lily's face became serious, her listening face, Sarah used to call it. Okay, Daddy. Vivian is going through some hard things right now. She was in an accident and she uses a wheelchair. Sometimes that makes her feel frustrated or sad. So I need you to be patient and kind even if she seems grumpy. Can you do that? Like how Grandpa was grumpy after his hip surgery? Exactly like that. Lily nodded solemnly. I can do that. I'm very good at being patient. Ethan smiled despite his anxiety. I know you are. The drive back to the mansion felt too short. Ethan's mind raced with worst-case scenarios. Vivian would hate having Lily there. Lily would accidentally say something that hurt Vivian's feelings. The fragile progress they'd made would shatter under the weight of this disruption. But when they pulled up to the mansion, Lily's gasp of wonder made him forget his worries for a moment. Daddy, it's huge. I know. Can I explore? After you meet Vivian, and only where I tell you it's okay. They walked to the front door together, Lily practically vibrating with excitement. Gloria opened the door, took one look at Lily, and her entire face transformed into a smile. Well, hello there, you must be Lily. That's me. Are you the housekeeper? Daddy says you make really good food. Gloria laughed, a genuine, delighted sound. Your daddy is very kind. Come in, sweetheart. Miss Vivian is in the sunroom. Ethan felt his daughter's hand tighten in his as they walked through the house. Lily's eyes were huge, taking in every detail, the marble floors, the art, the sheer size of everything. They reached the sunroom. Vivian was by the window in her wheelchair, staring out at the garden. She turned when they entered, and her expression went carefully blank. Ethan watched as Vivian and Lily sized each other up, two forces of nature assessing each other. Then Lily stepped forward and held out her hand. Hi, I'm Lily. My daddy says you're going through hard things and I should be patient and kind. I'm really good at both of those. Vivian blinked, clearly caught off guard. She shook Lily's hand. Hello, Lily. I'm Vivian. You have a pretty name. It sounds like a queen's name. Lily tilted her head, studying Vivian with the brutal honesty of children. Daddy says you use a wheelchair. Does it go fast? Lily, Ethan started, but Vivian held up a hand. It can go fairly fast, yes. Cool. My friend Tommy has a wheelchair, and he does wheelies in it. Can you do wheelies? I haven't tried. You should. Tommy says wheelies make everything better. Lily dropped her backpack on the floor. Can I see your house? Daddy says it's really big. Vivian glanced at Ethan, something uncertain in her eyes. He gave her a small nod. Your call. She turned back to Lily. I suppose a tour wouldn't hurt, though it's not really my house. I'm just renting it. That's okay. Daddy and I rent our apartment too. Well, we used to. Now we're kind of in between places. Lily said this with the matter-of-fact tone of someone who'd learned to accept instability. Where should we go first? And just like that, Vivian found herself giving a tour of the mansion to a 7-year-old who asked approximately 40 questions per minute and somehow managed to make even the most mundane rooms sound like adventures. Ethan followed at a distance, watching this impossible interaction unfold. In the library, Lily announced that it looked like Belle's library from Beauty and the Beast, but with fewer singing candlesticks. In the gym, she asked if Vivian could lift weights with her arms, then flexed her own tiny biceps to demonstrate proper form. In the garden, accessed through a ramp that had been installed after the accident, Lily declared that the bare winter trees were just sleeping, not dead, and that they'd be beautiful again in spring. And through it all, Vivian's carefully constructed armor began to crack. Not all at once, not dramatically, but in small moments. A reluctant smile at one of Lily's terrible jokes. A genuine laugh when Lily tripped over absolutely nothing and declared the floor sneaky. A softness in her eyes when Lily asked, with perfect 7-year-old sincerity, if being in a wheelchair was scary. Sometimes, Vivian admitted. They were back in the sunroom now, Lily sitting cross-legged on the floor while Vivian sat in her chair. Not because of the wheelchair itself, but because of what it represents. What does it represent? Change. Loss. Being different from who I used to be. Lily considered this seriously. My mommy died. That was a big change too. Daddy says I'm allowed to be sad about it, but I'm not allowed to let it make me mean. Vivian's breath caught. Your mother passed away? Yeah, when I was 5. I don't remember her as much as I want to. Lily's voice was matter of fact, but her eyes were sad. Daddy says that's okay, that we keep her in our hearts even if we can't remember everything. But sometimes I worry I'll forget her completely. I'm very sorry for your loss, Vivian said quietly. Thank you. Daddy says saying sorry is important. Lily pulled her backpack over and started rummaging through it. I like to draw when I'm sad. Do you want to see my pictures? Before Vivian could respond, Lily had pulled out a rumpled stack of papers covered in crayon drawings. She held up the first one. This is Mommy. I drew her from photos because I don't really remember what she looked like in real life. Daddy says I got her smile right. The drawing was crude but heartfelt, a stick figure with long hair and a wide smile, holding hands with a smaller stick figure. Lily flipped to the next picture. This is me and Daddy. We're going to the park. See the swings? Then another. This is our old apartment. It had a red door. I like that door. And another. This is Mrs. Bao, Chen's cat. His name is Mr. Whiskers, and he's very fat. Vivian watched this impromptu art show with an expression Ethan couldn't quite read. There was pain there, but also something else. Recognition, maybe. Or longing. Lily pulled out one more drawing and studied it for a moment before holding it up. This one's new. I drew it this morning while Mrs. Chen was packing. The drawing showed a castle, or rather, a child's interpretation of one. It had towers and windows and a big front door. In one of the windows was a figure in a wheelchair. Next to the wheelchair was a dragon, bright purple, with friendly eyes. That's you, Lily said, pointing to the wheelchair. And that's your dragon. Everybody needs a dragon because dragons are brave and loyal and they help carry you when you can't walk. Well, not real dragons, but like people who are dragon-like. Daddy's my dragon. He carries me when things are heavy. She held out the drawing to Vivian. You can have this one if you want, since you're letting me visit your castle. Vivian took the drawing with shaking hands. She stared at it for a long moment, her throat working, her eyes bright. Lily, she finally said, her voice rough. This is the nicest gift anyone has given me in a very long time. Thank you. Lily beamed. You're welcome. Do you want to see me do a cartwheel? I've been practicing. And without waiting for an answer, she executed a lopsided cartwheel in the middle of the sunroom, nearly knocking over a plant. Vivian laughed, a real genuine laugh that filled the room with warmth. Ethan, standing in the doorway, felt something shift in his chest. This wasn't what he'd expected. This wasn't controlled or planned or safe. This was real. The rest of the day unfolded like a fever dream. Lily helped Gloria make lunch, chattering about school and friends and the science project she was working on about butterflies. Vivian sat at the kitchen counter, a room she normally avoided, and listened to this stream of consciousness monologue with something approaching fascination. After lunch, Lily announced that Vivian needed to do physical therapy. How do you know about physical therapy? Vivian asked. Daddy told me in the car. He said you're working really hard to get stronger. Lily crossed her arms, looking remarkably like a tiny drill sergeant. You can't skip it just because I'm here. Tommy says skipping therapy makes your muscles sad. Vivian glanced at Ethan, who shrugged helplessly. She's not wrong. Fine, Vivian said, but you're not watching. Why not? Is it secret? It's boring. I like boring things sometimes. Daddy says I have a very patient personality when I want to. Somehow, Lily won the argument. She sat on a chair in the gym, swinging her legs and providing commentary while Vivian worked through her exercises. Your arms are really strong, like She-Ra. That's good, Vivian. You held that for so long. Ooh, that one looks hard. Do you want me to count? I'm very good at counting. And when Vivian attempted the parallel bars, her first time with an audience beyond Ethan, Lily stopped talking completely. She watched with wide eyes as Vivian gripped the rails and pulled herself up. 8 seconds. 10. 12. Vivian lowered herself back down, breathing hard. Lily erupted in applause. You were standing! That was so cool! Vivian wiped her forehead, trying to hide a smile. It wasn't that impressive. Yes, it was. You lifted yourself up with just your arms. I can't even do one pull-up. Lily hopped off her chair and ran over. Does it hurt? Sometimes. When I hurt, Daddy says to breathe through it, like this. Lily demonstrated an exaggerated breathing technique that was part yoga, part hyperventilation. I'll keep that in mind, Vivian said, and this time she didn't hide the smile. That evening, after dinner, which they all ate together, Gloria included, Lily started to fade. The excitement of the day caught up with her, and she curled up on the couch in the living room, fighting to keep her eyes open. Daddy, can we stay here tonight? She mumbled. It's so far to drive back. Lily, we can't just invite ourselves. She can stay, Vivian said quietly. She was in her wheelchair next to the couch, her expression soft. You both can. There are plenty of rooms, and frankly, she paused, choosing her words carefully. It's been nice having people here, hearing laughter. Ethan met her eyes. Are you sure? I'm sure. Lily perked up slightly. Can I sleep in a fancy room with a big bed? You can sleep in whatever room you want, Vivian said. Within reason. Yay! Lily's energy returned in a burst. Can Vivian help me pick one? Vivian looked startled. I suppose so. And so they embarked on another tour, this time of the second-floor bedrooms. Lily rejected 3 rooms before finding one she declared perfect. A corner room with windows on 2 walls and a bed she proclaimed bouncy enough. While Ethan got Lily settled for bed, Vivian waited in the hallway. When he emerged from the room, she was staring at Lily's drawing, which she'd brought upstairs with her. She's remarkable, Vivian said softly. Your daughter. She is. She's been through so much, lost her mother, lost stability, watched you struggle, and she's still... Vivian gestured helplessly at the drawing. She's still this bright, this kind. How? Because she doesn't know any other way to be. Ethan leaned against the wall. And because I've tried to teach her that hard things don't have to make you hard. I don't know how to be around that kind of openness, that kind of light. You did fine today. Did I? Vivian looked at him, vulnerability written across her face. Because it felt terrifying. She just walked in and decided we were going to be friends, and I didn't know how to say no. And then she gave me this. She held up the drawing, and I wanted to cry because nobody has looked at me and seen anything worth drawing in 2 years. That's not true. Gloria sees you. I see you. You're paid to see me. That's not why I see you. Ethan pushed off the wall. I see you because you're worth seeing. Today proved that. Vivian's eyes glistened. She asked me if being in a wheelchair was scary, and I told her the truth, that I was scared of what it represented. I've never said that out loud before. Maybe you needed someone who wouldn't judge you for the answer. Maybe. Vivian carefully rolled the drawing and held it against her chest. Ethan, I need to tell you something. What? I've been terrible to you, to everyone. I've been cruel and manipulative, and I've tried to make you quit because it was easier than admitting I needed help. Her voice shook. But you stayed. And today, when you could have used this disruption as an excuse to leave, you didn't. You brought your daughter into my mess, and she somehow made it better. She has that effect on people. No, you have that effect. She learned it from you. Vivian met his eyes. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to be around people who don't treat me like I'm fragile or frustrating or a project to fix. But I want to try. Ethan felt his chest tighten. Then try. It's that simple. It's that simple. And that complicated. He smiled slightly. But yes, just try. Vivian nodded, still clutching the drawing. Your daughter said everyone needs a dragon, someone who carries you when you can't walk. She looked up at him. I think you might be my dragon, Ethan Hale. Then I guess you're stuck with me. Good, Vivian said softly. I think I'm finally okay with that. They stood in the quiet hallway, the sound of Lily's soft breathing drifting from the bedroom. Outside, the city lights glowed against the dark sky. Inside, something was shifting, something neither of them had names for yet, but both of them could feel. The mansion felt different now, less like a mausoleum and more like a home. And for the first time in 2 years, Vivian Cross felt something she'd thought was gone forever. Hope. The next morning brought a moment Ethan would remember for the rest of his life. He woke to voices drifting down the hallway, one high and bright, the other lower and hesitant. He pulled on yesterday's clothes and followed the sound to the kitchen, where he found Lily sitting on the counter while Vivian, still in her wheelchair, attempted to crack eggs one-handed into a bowl. No, like this, Lily was saying, demonstrating with invisible eggs. You gotta tap it gentle first, then pull it apart. Mrs. Chen taught me. I used to know how to cook, Vivian muttered, staring at the egg in her hand like it was a puzzle she'd forgotten how to solve. I've made breakfast on 4 continents. Now I can't remember the last time I cracked an egg. That's okay. I forget stuff too, like where I put my homework or if I already brushed my teeth. Lily swung her legs cheerfully. Daddy says forgetting just means your brain is making room for new things. Vivian glanced toward the doorway and caught sight of Ethan. Something flickered across her face. Embarrassment, maybe, at being caught in this domestic moment. Your daughter insisted I needed to learn to make pancakes, Vivian said, her tone dry but not unkind. Apparently it's a crucial life skill. It is crucial, Lily confirmed, because pancakes make everything better. That's a fact. Gloria appeared from the pantry, carrying flour and baking powder. She took in the scene, Vivian at the stove, Lily perched on the counter, Ethan in the doorway, and her expression softened in a way Ethan had never seen before. Well, Gloria said, setting the ingredients down. Looks like we're having pancakes this morning. Ethan, coffee's fresh. Lily, you want to measure the flour while Ms. Vivian works on those eggs? What followed was controlled chaos. Lily measured flour with the precision of a demolitions expert, sending white clouds across the counter. Vivian managed to crack 3 eggs successfully before accidentally crushing the 4th in her grip. Gloria orchestrated the whole operation with the calm efficiency of someone conducting a symphony, and Ethan stood back and watched as the woman who'd spent 6 months destroying assistants learned to make pancakes with his 7-year-old daughter. When they finally sat down to eat, at the kitchen island instead of the formal dining room, the pancakes were lumpy and slightly burned, and they were the best breakfast Ethan had eaten in months. These are perfect, Lily announced through a mouthful of syrup-soaked pancake. We should do this every Saturday. Vivian paused mid-bite. Every Saturday? Yeah, like a tradition. Daddy says traditions are important because they give you something to look forward to. Lily, Ethan said gently, Vivian might have other plans on Saturdays. Do you? Lily looked at Vivian with those wide, hopeful eyes that had convinced Ethan to buy a goldfish they absolutely couldn't afford 3 months ago. Vivian stared at her plate, at the imperfect pancakes she'd helped make. When she looked up, her eyes were suspiciously bright. No, I don't have other plans. Then it's settled. Lily clapped her hands. Saturday pancakes. We can make different kinds too. Chocolate chip, blueberry, banana. Let's master plain ones first, Gloria interjected, but she was smiling. After breakfast, Lily asked if she could see the garden again. Ethan started to say yes, but Vivian spoke first. I'll take her, if that's all right. Ethan must have looked surprised because Vivian's expression turned defensive. What? I'm perfectly capable of supervising a child in a garden. I know, Ethan caught himself. Yeah, that would be great. I need to make some calls anyway. He watched from the kitchen window as Vivian wheeled down the ramp into the garden, Lily skipping alongside her. The morning sun caught in Lily's hair, making it look almost gold. Vivian pointed at something, probably explaining about the sleeping trees, and Lily nodded seriously, then launched into what was clearly a very detailed story based on her animated hand gestures. She's good for her, Gloria said quietly, coming to stand beside Ethan. Your daughter. Or Vivian's good for her. Hard to tell which way the help is flowing. Maybe it flows both ways. Gloria wiped her hands on a dish towel. I've worked for Ms. Cross for 8 years. I've seen her angry, depressed, cruel, broken. But this morning, making pancakes with a 7-year-old? That's the first time I've seen her look anything close to content. Ethan's chest tightened. She's changing, not just physically, something deeper. You're changing her. I don't think I am. I think she's just finally ready to change. Gloria gave him a long look. You're a good man, Ethan Hale, and you're exactly what she needed, even if she'd never admit it. Outside, Lily had apparently found something fascinating on the ground. A rock, probably. Or maybe a bug. She held it up for Vivian's inspection. Even from this distance, Ethan could see Vivian lean forward with genuine interest, examining whatever treasure Lily had discovered. His phone buzzed. A text from Mrs. Chen. Baby arrived. 7 pounds, healthy boy. Won't be back until next week. Can you manage? Ethan stared at the message. A week. He'd need to figure out care for Lily for an entire week, and he'd already used his one miracle by bringing her here yesterday. He was typing a response when another text came through, this one from Vivian. Lily wants to know if she can stay until her babysitter returns. I'm okay with it if you are. Ethan read the message 3 times. Then he looked out the window again. Vivian had her phone in her lap, waiting. Even from here, he could see the tension in her shoulders, the fear of rejection, of having asked for too much. He typed back, Are you sure? It's a week, not a day. The response came immediately, I'm sure. This house could use the noise. Then, a moment later, and I could use the company, if that's not too pathetic to admit. Ethan felt something crack open in his chest. He typed, It's not pathetic. And yes, thank you. When he looked up, Vivian was reading his message. Her shoulders relaxed. She said something to Lily, who immediately launched into what looked like a victory dance right there in the garden. Well, Gloria said, still watching from beside him. Looks like we're having a house guest. Looks like. Good. I'll make up the room properly, and I'll need to go shopping. A 7-year-old requires different groceries than 2 adults and a housekeeper. She paused. This is good, Ethan. For all of you. Maybe it was. Or maybe it was complicated and messy, and something that would inevitably end in hurt when reality reasserted itself. But standing there watching his daughter explore a garden with a woman who'd forgotten how to let people in, Ethan decided to stop worrying about eventually and just be present for now. The week that followed rewrote the mansion's entire atmosphere. Lily brought structure where there'd been none. She woke at 7 every morning, which meant everyone woke at 7. She required meals at regular times, which meant Vivian couldn't skip eating out of spite or apathy. She asked questions constantly, which meant silence, Vivian's preferred weapon, became impossible to maintain. But more than structure, Lily brought lightness. She narrated her entire existence like she was starring in her own documentary. Now I'm putting on my shoes. These are my favorite shoes because they light up when I walk. See? Now I'm walking to the kitchen. The kitchen is very big, bigger than our whole apartment used to be. She turned physical therapy into a game, counting Vivian's exercises like a sports announcer. And she's reaching for the resistance band. Oh, what form! What determination! The crowd goes wild. She appointed herself the official house explorer and created detailed maps of every room, complete with ratings. The library got 5 stars. The gym got 4 stars because it smells like hard work. The formal living room got 2 stars because nobody ever sits in there, and that makes it sad. And somehow, impossibly, Vivian allowed it all. She let Lily sit in on therapy sessions. She answered endless questions about the wheelchair, the accident, what it felt like to climb mountains. She even, and this was what shocked Ethan most, asked Lily questions in return. What's your favorite subject in school? Do you miss your mother every day, or just sometimes? If you could go anywhere in the world, where would you go? They were small questions, carefully casual, but they represented something massive. Vivian caring about someone else's life beyond the bare necessities of existence. On Tuesday, Vivian worked on the parallel bars longer than she ever had before. She held herself up for 15 seconds, then 17, then 20. When she finally lowered back into her wheelchair, face flushed and arms trembling, Lily presented her with a hand-drawn certificate that read, "World's Strongest Arms" in crayon. Vivian taped it to the gym wall. On Wednesday, a package arrived. Medical equipment Vivian had ordered weeks ago but never opened. Lily watched with fascination as Ethan and Vivian unpacked specialized grips, a standing frame, and a walker that looked like it belonged in a science fiction movie. "What's that for?" Lily pointed at the standing frame. "It's supposed to help me practice standing without needing the parallel bars," Vivian said. "I ordered it a month ago and then decided I was too scared to try it." "Why were you scared?" "Because what if I tried and failed? Then I'd know for sure that I couldn't do it." Lily considered this with the seriousness of a philosopher. "But what if you tried and didn't fail? Then you'd know you could do it. That seems better than not knowing at all." Vivian stared at this 7-year-old who'd just dismantled her entire fear-based logic system in 2 sentences. "You make a compelling argument." "I know. Daddy says I should be a lawyer when I grow up." They set up the standing frame that afternoon. With Ethan's help, Vivian transferred into it, a complex system of straps and supports that held her upright while allowing her legs to bear weight gradually. She stood for 30 seconds, then a minute, then 2. Lily sat on the floor and read aloud from a library book about dragons, her voice filling the gym while Vivian stood and trembled and quietly fought against every limitation her body tried to impose. When Ethan finally said time was up, Vivian's face was wet with tears she hadn't bothered to hide. "I forgot," she whispered. "I forgot what the world looks like from this height." Lily looked up from her book. "Does it look different?" "Everything looks different." Vivian wiped her eyes. "Better. It looks better." On Thursday, something shifted. Ethan woke to find Vivian already in the gym at 6 a.m. before their scheduled session. She was transferring herself into the standing frame without assistance, her movements precise and determined. "What are you doing?" he asked from the doorway. "Practicing. You're always saying consistency matters, so I'm being consistent." She finished the transfer and looked at him. "Time me. I want to see if I can beat yesterday." She stood for 3 minutes, then 4. By the time she asked to stop, she'd been vertical for almost 6 minutes, and her legs, her supposedly useless legs, were visibly supporting some of her weight. "They're waking up," she said, staring down at them like they were strangers. "I can feel them. Not completely, not normally, but something's there that wasn't before." The doctor said it was possible. Incomplete spinal injuries can recover partially. "I know what the doctor said. They also said not to get my hopes up." Vivian's voice was fierce. "But I don't care. I'm getting my hopes up anyway. I'm done being afraid of disappointment." Ethan helped her back into the wheelchair. "What changed?" "Your daughter asked me yesterday what I missed most about climbing, and I told her the truth. I missed feeling like I could go anywhere, do anything, like the only limits were the ones I chose." Vivian's hands gripped her wheels tightly, and she said, "So do that again, just differently, like it was the simplest thing in the world." Kids have a way of cutting through complexity. "She has a way of making me believe things I thought were impossible." Vivian looked up at him. "I'm not going to walk normally again. I understand that. But maybe I don't have to. Maybe I can find a different way to move through the world." "Maybe you can." That evening, after Lily was in bed, Vivian asked Ethan to join her in the library. She was by the window, the city lights spreading below like fallen stars. "I need to tell you something," she said without preamble, "and I need you to not interrupt until I'm finished." Ethan sat down in one of the leather chairs. "Okay." Vivian took a breath. When I woke up in the hospital after the accident, the first thing I felt was rage. Not at the mountain or the avalanche or even at myself for being there. I was angry at everyone who could still walk. Every doctor, every nurse, every person I saw through the window going about their normal lives. I hated them all for having what I'd lost. She paused, her fingers tracing patterns on her wheelchair's armrest. And then I came home to this house, this massive, expensive monument to everything I used to be. And the rage turned inward. I looked at pictures of myself on mountains and couldn't recognize that person anymore. So I took them all down. Fired my therapist because her optimism felt like mockery. Drove away every assistant because keeping people at a distance hurt less than watching them eventually leave. Ethan stayed quiet, letting her speak. I was drowning, Vivian continued, her voice dropping. Slowly, deliberately drowning. And I told myself it was fine because at least I was in control of the drowning. At least I was choosing it. She finally looked at him. And then you showed up. Vivian, I'm not finished. But her tone was gentle. You showed up and you were different. You didn't try to save me or fix me or inspire me with some speech about perseverance. You just stayed. Even when I was cruel, even when I tried to break you. Her voice cracked slightly. And then you brought your daughter. And she walked into my life like she owned the place and decided we were going to be friends. And I couldn't fight both of you. We weren't fighting you. I know. That's what made it so terrifying. Vivian's eyes were bright in the dim light. For the first time in 2 years, I wanted to get better. Not because I was supposed to, not to prove anything to anyone, but because I wanted to. Because you and Lily made me remember what it felt like to be part of something beyond my own pain. Ethan's throat felt tight. You're part of something. You have been for weeks. I know. I'm just now letting myself believe it. She wheeled closer to where he sat. There's something else I need to tell you. Something harder. What? Vivian reached into a pocket on her wheelchair and pulled out an envelope. It was thick, expensive looking, and addressed to her in flowing script. This arrived yesterday. It's from my ex-fiancé Marcus, the one I told you about, the climbing partner who visited once and disappeared. Her hand shook slightly, holding the envelope. It's a wedding invitation. He's getting married next month. She opened the envelope and pulled out a cream-colored card. Even from where Ethan sat, he could see it was elegant, expensive, perfect. There's a note inside, Vivian said. Want to know what it says? Ethan wasn't sure, but he nodded. Vivian's voice was flat as she read. Vivian, I hope you're doing well. I wanted you to hear this from me first. Jessica and I met last year, and we just clicked. I know the timing might seem fast, but when you know, you know. I hope we can still be friends. All the best, Marcus. She folded the note carefully and put it back in the envelope. When you know, you know. That's what he said. Like our 5 years together meant nothing because I'm not the same person anymore. He's an idiot. He's honest. Vivian's smile was bitter. I'm not who I was. I can't do the things I used to do. I can't be the fearless climber he fell in love with. So he found someone who can be, and now they're getting married, and I'm supposed to be happy for him. Are you? No, I'm furious and heartbroken and relieved all at once. She looked down at the invitation. Furious because he gave up on us without really trying. Heartbroken because I loved him, and he couldn't love me back once I was different. And relieved because I deserve better than someone who only loved the idea of me. You do deserve better. The problem is I believed him. When he left, when he stopped calling, I told myself he was right to leave. That I was too broken to love, too difficult, too much work. Her voice was raw now, all pretense stripped away. And then you stayed. You stayed through every terrible thing I did. And you brought your daughter into my home, and you both looked at me like I was worth something, and I didn't know what to do with that. Ethan leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. Vivian, listen to me. You are not too broken to love. You're not too difficult. You're not too much work. You're just different, she finished. I'm different now. Yes. And different isn't less than. It's just different. Vivian stared at him, and something in her expression cracked open. I want to believe that. I want to believe I can have a life that matters, even if it doesn't look like the life I planned. You can. How do you know? Because I had to learn the same thing. Ethan's voice was quiet but steady. When Sarah died, I had to rebuild my entire life. Had to learn how to be a single father, how to make breakfast for a grieving 5-year-old, how to answer questions I didn't have answers for. And I kept waiting to feel like myself again. But I never did, because that version of me died with Sarah. So what happened? I became someone new. Not better or worse, just different. A version of me that could exist in a world without Sarah. He met her eyes. That's what you're doing too. You're becoming a version of yourself that can exist in a world where you don't climb mountains anymore. And that person can be just as extraordinary as the person you were before. Vivian's face crumpled. Tears spilled down her cheeks, and for once she didn't try to hide them or wipe them away. She just let them fall. "I'm so tired," she whispered. "I'm so tired of being angry and scared and alone." "Then stop being alone. Let people in." "I don't know how." "Yes, you do. You've been doing it all week." Ethan gestured toward the stairs where Lily slept. "You let a 7-year-old teach you how to make pancakes. You answered her questions about things you've never talked about. You taped her certificate to the gym wall. That's letting people in." "That's different. She's a child. She's easy to—" Vivian stopped, searching for words. "Easy to love?" Ethan finished gently. Vivian's breath caught. She nodded. "Then maybe start there, with the easy parts, and work your way up to the harder ones." They sat in silence for a while, the city humming beyond the windows. Vivian held the wedding invitation in her lap, but she wasn't looking at it anymore. She was looking at Ethan with an expression he couldn't quite read, something vulnerable and hopeful and terrified all at once. "Ethan?" "Yeah?" "Thank you for staying, for not giving up on me even when I was trying to make you." "You're welcome." "And Ethan?" "Yeah?" "I think I need to stop renting this house." Ethan's heart dropped. "You're leaving?" "No, not leaving, just moving forward." Vivian looked around the library, at the empty spaces where photographs used to hang. "This place is beautiful, but it's not mine. It's just an expensive storage unit for broken dreams. I need somewhere smaller, somewhere that feels like a home instead of a museum." "That makes sense." "I'm scared," she admitted. "Scared of what comes next. Scared of trying to build a new life when I barely figured out how to survive in the old one." "Being scared is okay. It just means you care about the outcome." Vivian smiled, small but genuine. "When did you get so wise?" "I'm not wise. I just know what it's like to start over." She wheeled toward the door, then paused. "Lily asked me today if I was her friend, and I said yes without thinking about it. Then I realized it's been 2 years since I called anyone friend. Everyone was either medical staff or people I was paying or people who left. And now I have a 7-year-old who thinks I'm cool because I can do wheelies in my chair, which I still can't actually do, for the record, and a father who stayed when he had every reason to leave." She looked back at him. "Now I have friends, real ones, and it's terrifying and wonderful, and I don't want to lose it." "You won't." "Promise?" "I promise." Vivian nodded, satisfied, and wheeled out of the library. Ethan sat alone in the quiet room for a long time after she left, thinking about promises and change and the strange way life could break you open just to show you what you were really made of. Friday morning arrived with the kind of crystalline clarity that makes everything feel possible. Lily woke everyone up at 6:30 by singing at full volume in her room. The song was something about dragons and castles and friendship, and it was completely made up, but it filled the house with joy. Over breakfast, pancakes again, better this time but still slightly imperfect, Vivian made an announcement. "I've been thinking," she said, looking between Ethan and Lily, "and I've decided something." "What?" Lily asked, syrup on her chin. "I'm going to try adaptive climbing, not the kind I used to do, but something new, something that works with who I am now instead of against it." Lily's face lit up. "Really? That's so cool. Can I watch?" "If your father says yes, and if I actually go through with it." Vivian glanced at Ethan. "There's a gym about an hour from here that specializes in adaptive sports. They have climbing walls modified for people with mobility issues. I called them yesterday." "That's great," Ethan said, meaning it. "I'm terrified. Vivian admitted. But I'm also excited. And I haven't been excited about anything in so long I almost forgot what it felt like. It feels like butterflies in your stomach, Lily offered. That's what Daddy says. Your daddy's right. Vivian pushed her plate away. Speaking of which, Mrs. Chen comes back Monday, right? Ethan nodded. She does. Something passed across Vivian's face. Disappointment, maybe, or loss. So this is your last weekend here? It is. Oh. Vivian's voice was carefully neutral. Well, it's been nice having you both here. Lily's face fell. But I don't want to leave. Can't we stay longer? Lily, we have our own home. But this is better. It has a big garden and a library and Vivian and Gloria and... Lily. Ethan's tone was gentle but firm. We've already stayed longer than planned. We can visit, but we can't live here. Why not? It was a simple question without a simple answer. Because they weren't Vivian's responsibility. Because Ethan was her employee, not her family. Because this week had been an exception, not the rule. Because getting too comfortable here would make leaving impossible. But before Ethan could formulate any of those responses, Vivian spoke. Actually, she said slowly, what if you could? Ethan stared at her. What? Stay. Not just visit, actually stay. Vivian was looking at her coffee, not at him. This house has 10 bedrooms. You and Lily are using one. That leaves 9 sitting empty. And I've been thinking about what you said, about this place being a museum instead of a home. Maybe what it needs is actual people living in it. Vivian, I'm not doing this out of pity or charity. I'm being selfish. Now she looked up, and her eyes were fierce. This week has been the first time in 2 years I've wanted to wake up in the morning. The first time I've pushed myself in therapy without someone forcing me. The first time I've laughed and meant it. Her voice softened. You and Lily did that, and I'm not ready for it to end. Ethan's mind raced. I can't just move us into your house. That's not appropriate. I'm your employee. Then quit. What? Quit. Vivian wheeled closer. Resign from being my assistant, and then move in as, I don't know, roommates, friends. People who share a space and help each other and maybe make Saturday pancakes a permanent tradition. You're serious. Completely. She turned to Lily. What do you think? Would you want to live here? Lily's face was a study in conflict, joy and hope and uncertainty all at once. She looked at Ethan. Can we, Daddy? Please? Lily, it's complicated. Why? Vivian has space. We need space. We're friends. Friends help each other, right? She turned back to Vivian. Right? Right, Vivian confirmed. Ethan felt like he was standing on the edge of a cliff, and the only options were jumping or staying stuck forever. I need time to think about this. Of course. Vivian backed up slightly, giving him space. Take all the time you need, but know that the offer is genuine, and it's open-ended. The rest of the day passed in a strange tension. Lily was subdued, clearly worried about the answer. Vivian threw herself into therapy with unusual intensity, like she was trying to prove something. And Ethan moved through the hours in a fog of conflicting thoughts. Moving in would solve every practical problem he had. Lily would have stability. He'd have time to find better work. They'd have a home. But it would also complicate everything in ways he couldn't predict. The line between employee and friend was already blurred. What would happen when they crossed it entirely? What if Vivian changed her mind? What if he was putting Lily in a position to lose another person she'd grown attached to? That evening, after Lily was asleep, Ethan found Vivian in the sunroom staring out at the garden. I've been thinking about your offer, he said. She didn't turn around. And? And I need to know something first. Why are you really asking us to stay? Because you feel guilty? Because Lily's a good distraction? Because I'm lonely. Vivian's voice was raw. Because I've spent 2 years pushing everyone away, and now I've finally let 2 people in, and the thought of going back to how things were before terrifies me. She turned to face him. I'm asking you to stay because you and Lily have given me something I thought I'd lost. Purpose. Connection. A reason to try. That's a lot of pressure to put on us. I know. And if it's too much, I understand. I'll still see you during therapy sessions. Lily can still visit. We don't have to. I'll stay, Ethan said. Vivian stopped mid-sentence. What? I'll stay. We'll stay. On two conditions. Name them. 1. I pay rent. Not market rate because I can't afford that, but something. I'm not a charity case and Lily needs to see her father contributing. Agreed. What's the second condition? You have to promise that if you change your mind, if this gets too complicated or too hard or just doesn't work, you tell me honestly. No passive-aggressive hints. No trying to make us leave without saying it. Just honesty. Vivian met his eyes. I promise. Same goes for you? Same goes for me. They shook hands, and the gesture felt both formal and momentous, like they were signing a treaty instead of making a living arrangement. So, Vivian said, a small smile playing at her lips, I guess we're roommates now. I guess we are. This is going to be weird. Probably. But good weird? Ethan thought about Lily's face when he told her they could stay. Thought about Saturday pancakes and therapy sessions and this strange, fractured family they were building without any blueprint to follow. Yeah, he said. Good weird. Lily's scream of joy when Ethan told her they were staying could probably be heard 3 blocks away. She launched herself at him with such force that he stumbled backward, catching her midair and spinning her around while she shouted, Yes, 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 over and over. When he finally set her down, she immediately ran to find Vivian, who was in the library attempting to look casual while clearly having been listening from the doorway. We're staying, Lily announced, throwing her arms around Vivian's wheelchair in a hug that was more tackle than embrace. We're really staying. Vivian's hands hovered uncertainly for a moment before settling on Lily's back, returning the hug with a gentleness that made Ethan's chest ache. Yes, you're really staying. Can I decorate my room? Can we get a cat? Can we plant flowers in the garden? Let's start with unpacking your backpack and work our way up to major life decisions, Ethan suggested, but he was smiling. Gloria appeared from the kitchen, her eyes suspiciously bright. So I suppose I should make up that room properly then, and maybe start planning menus for 3 instead of 1.5. 1.5? Vivian raised an eyebrow. You barely eat enough for a whole person, Gloria said matter-of-factly. But now you will, because that child won't let you skip meals. She's right, Lily confirmed. Skipping meals makes your body sad. That's science. The next few days were a controlled hurricane of change. Ethan went back to his apartment, the one he'd been subletting from a friend who'd needed someone to cover rent while she traveled, and packed up their meager belongings. It took exactly 4 boxes and 2 suitcases to contain their entire life. Looking at those boxes stacked in the back of his car, Ethan felt a complicated mix of shame and relief. Shame at how little they had accumulated in 7 years. Relief that starting over would be that much easier. When he returned to the mansion, their home now, he reminded himself, Lily was already establishing territory. She'd claimed the corner room they'd stayed in before and was directing Gloria in the placement of furniture with the authority of a general deploying troops. The bed has to go here, by the window, so I can see the garden when I wake up. And the bookshelf has to go there, next to the reading chair that Daddy says we can move from the library because there are like 6 reading chairs in there and nobody uses them all. I said we'd ask about the chair, Ethan corrected, but Vivian waved him off. Take whatever furniture you need. The house is full of things nobody uses. She was in the doorway watching Lily with an expression that was becoming familiar, half bemused, half enchanted. Though I have to admit, I've never seen anyone take over a space quite so thoroughly. She has a gift, Ethan said dryly. Daddy, come help me unpack, Lily called. I need to organize my books by color, and you're the only one tall enough to reach the top shelf. The afternoon dissolved into domestic chaos. Ethan hung Lily's clothes in the closet that was bigger than their old bathroom. Gloria appeared with fresh linens and the kind of towels Ethan had only seen in hotels. Vivian contributed a lamp she said had been gathering dust in a guest room and a rug that suddenly made Lily's space feel complete. When they finally finished, Lily stood in the center of her room and spun in a slow circle, taking it all in. This is the best room I've ever had. Maybe the best room anyone has ever had. I don't know about that, Vivian said from her position by the door, but it's definitely the most colorful room in this house now. It was true. Lily had plastered the walls with her drawings, arranged her collection of rocks and feathers on the windowsill, and somehow convinced Gloria to let her hang a string of fairy lights that made the whole space glow soft and warm. It feels like home, Lily said quietly. Then she looked at Ethan, suddenly uncertain. This is home now, right? For real? Ethan knelt down to her level. For real. And we won't have to leave? Not unless we want to. Lily nodded, satisfied, then threw herself into his arms for the third time that day. Over her shoulder, Ethan caught Vivian's eye. She was smiling, but there was something bittersweet in her expression, like she was watching something she'd never thought she'd have. That night, they ate dinner together in the kitchen instead of the formal dining room. It was spaghetti, Lily's request, and Gloria had made it with the kind of rich, slow-cooked sauce that required hours of attention. They sat around the island, passing garlic bread and parmesan, and for the first time since Sarah died, Ethan felt like he was part of a family again. Not the same family, not a replacement for what he'd lost, but something new, something that worked in its own strange way. So, Vivian said, twirling pasta on her fork, I have news. I booked a session at the adaptive climbing gym. Next Saturday. Lily's head snapped up. Really? Can we come watch? I was hoping you would. Vivian's voice was carefully casual, but Ethan could see the tension in her shoulders. I'm going to need cheerleaders and someone to talk me out of backing out when I inevitably panic. I'm excellent at cheerleading, Lily announced. I can do cartwheels and everything. No cartwheels in the climbing gym, Ethan said. But yes, we'll be there, if you're sure you want an audience. I'm not sure about anything, Vivian admitted, but I'm doing it anyway. That's progress, right? That's huge progress. The following days fell into a rhythm that felt both new and ancient, like they'd been living this way for years instead of days. Morning started with Lily's alarm at 7. She'd chosen a song that sounded like birds chirping and sunshine, and it was both adorable and mildly annoying. Ethan would get her ready for school while Gloria made breakfast, and Vivian did her morning routine. They'd eat together, then Ethan would drive Lily to school before returning for Vivian's therapy session. The sessions themselves had changed. Now that Ethan wasn't technically Vivian's employee, there was less formality and more collaboration. She pushed herself harder, trying things she'd been afraid of before. The standing frame became a daily practice. The parallel bars were no longer enough. She wanted to try the walker, the crutches, anything that might give her more independence. I'm not trying to be who I was, she explained one morning after a particularly intense session. I'm trying to figure out who I can be. There's a difference. I know. Do you? Because sometimes I worry I'm pushing too hard, that I'm going to hurt myself trying to prove something that doesn't need proving. Ethan considered this. They were in the gym, Vivian in her wheelchair, face flushed from exertion. Are you in pain? Some, but good pain, the kind that means muscles are working. And are you listening to your body when it says stop? Mostly. Then you're not pushing too hard, you're pushing smart. He handed her a water bottle. There's a difference between challenging yourself and destroying yourself. You're doing the first one. Vivian drank deeply, then set the bottle aside. I called Marcus yesterday, my ex. Ethan's stomach tightened. How did that go? Better than expected, worse than hoped. She stared at her hands. I told him I wasn't coming to his wedding, that I wished him well, but I needed to move forward instead of backward. He said he understood, but I could hear the relief in his voice, like he was glad he didn't have to feel guilty anymore. I'm sorry. Don't be. It was the right call. Vivian looked up at him. I spent 2 years believing I was unlovable because he left. But talking to him yesterday, I realized something. He didn't leave because I was unlovable. He left because he was incapable of loving someone who needed him. And that's not my failure. That's his. That's a hard truth to accept. Yeah, but it's also freeing. She wheeled toward the door, then paused. Ethan, thank you for being different than him, for staying when it got hard. You're welcome, but I'm not staying because I'm noble or strong. I'm staying because I want to. I know. That's what makes it matter. Afternoons were Lily's domain. She'd come home from school bursting with stories and energy, and she'd somehow recruited everyone in the house into her elaborate games. Gloria became the Dragon Queen. Vivian was the knight in the wheelchair castle. Ethan was usually assigned the role of Daddy Who Helps, which seemed to mean whatever Lily needed in the moment. The garden became their primary playground. Lily had decided the bare winter trees needed encouragement, so she'd made signs for each one. "You can do it, tree!" And "Spring is coming." And Ethan's personal favorite, "Believe in yourself, tree." Vivian watched these sign-planting expeditions with bemused affection. Your daughter is either a motivational speaker in training or mildly unhinged. Can't it be both? Fair point. One afternoon, Lily convinced Vivian to try wheeling through the garden paths she'd never bothered with before. They were old stone pathways, uneven and challenging, but Lily insisted. "You have to see the back corner. There's a fountain that doesn't work, and it's so pretty even though it's broken." Vivian navigated the paths with surprising skill, her chair handling the terrain better than Ethan expected. When they reached the fountain, a crumbling stone structure covered in moss, Lily was right. It was beautiful in its brokenness. "We should fix it," Lily announced. "Make it work again." "It's been broken for years," Vivian said. "The previous owners let it fall apart." "So? Broken things can be fixed. You're getting fixed, right?" Vivian's breath caught. "I'm not fixed, Lily. I'm just improving." "Same thing." Lily ran her hand along the fountain's edge. "Besides, improvement is just fixing in slow motion. Daddy told me that once." "Your daddy is full of wisdom." "I know, he's very smart for someone who can't remember where he put his car keys." Ethan, standing a few feet away, called out, "I can hear you, you know." "I know," Lily grinned. "Can we fix the fountain, though, please?" Vivian looked at the broken fountain, then at Lily's hopeful face, then at Ethan. "Why not? We're fixing everything else. Might as well add one more project to the list." That evening, Ethan looked up fountain repair while Lily drew designs for how it should look when it was finished. Vivian sat nearby, occasionally offering suggestions, her expression softer than Ethan had ever seen it. "This is nice," she said quietly, when Lily was absorbed in adding detail to her drawing. "This feeling of planning something instead of just surviving. It is nice. I never thought I'd have this. People in my space, sharing my life. After Marcus left, I convinced myself I was better off alone, that needing people was weakness. And now? Now I think needing people is the only thing that kept me human." She watched Lily work. "She's remarkable, you know, your daughter, the way she sees the world. Everything is fixable, everything is possible. She hasn't learned to be cynical yet. I hope she never does. She will, eventually. Life has a way of teaching that lesson." Vivian's voice was sad. "But maybe if we're lucky, she'll learn it slower than most. Maybe this place can protect her from that a little longer." Saturday arrived with the weight of expectation. The adaptive climbing gym was an hour away, in an industrial building that had been converted into something between a warehouse and an adventure park. Inside, the walls were covered with climbing routes of varying difficulty, modified with extra holds, platforms, and support systems designed for climbers with disabilities. Vivian sat in her wheelchair in the parking lot, staring at the building. "I can't do this," she said. "Yes, you can," Lily said from the back seat. "What if I fail? What if I get up there and freeze and everyone sees me fail?" "Then you'll try again," Ethan said. "Failure isn't permanent unless you let it be." "What if my body can't do it? What if—" "Vivian." Lily leaned forward, her small hand reaching out to touch Vivian's shoulder. "Remember what you told me about how being scared just means you care about the outcome? You're scared because this matters. But that's good. It means you're trying." Vivian turned to look at this 7-year-old who'd somehow become her philosopher and cheerleader. "When did you get so smart?" "I've always been smart. Everyone just notices now." Lily grinned. "Come on, let's go climb some walls." Inside, they were met by an instructor named Sarah. The name hit Ethan like a punch, but he managed to keep his expression neutral, who explained the adaptive equipment and safety protocols with the calm efficiency of someone who'd done this 100 times. "We'll start on the easiest route," Sarah said.
It's modified with extra holds and a support harness system. You'll be completely safe the entire time. Vivian's jaw was tight as they fitted her with the harness, a complex system of straps and supports that would bear her weight while allowing her arms to do the climbing. The route itself was maybe 15 feet high, with holds large enough to grip easily. "This is nothing," Vivian muttered. "I used to free climb 40-foot walls without thinking." "This isn't about what you used to do," Sarah said gently. "It's about what you can do now, and that's enough." Lily stood at the base of the wall, practically vibrating with excitement. "You've got this, Vivian! You're going to be amazing!" Vivian positioned herself at the wall, reached up for the first hold, and pulled. For a moment, nothing happened. The harness held her weight, but she wasn't moving. Then she adjusted her grip, engaged her core, and pulled again. She moved 6 inches up the wall, then another 6 inches. Lily was jumping up and down, clapping. "You're doing it! You're climbing!" Vivian's face was a mask of concentration and effort. Her arms trembled with each pull. The harness bore most of her weight, but she was still working, still fighting against limitations that had defined her for 2 years. She made it 5 feet up the wall before her arms gave out. The harness caught her immediately, lowering her safely back to the ground. She hung there for a moment, breathing hard, face flushed. "I only made it 5 feet," she said. "You made it 5 feet higher than you've been in 2 years, Ethan pointed out. Lily ran over and hugged her legs, the only part of Vivian she could reach. "That was so cool! Can you do it again? Can you go higher?" Vivian looked down at this child who believed in her without question. Then she looked at the wall, at those 5 feet she'd conquered. "Yeah," she said, "I can try again." She tried 4 more times that afternoon. Each time she went a little higher. By the final attempt, she'd made it 8 feet up the wall before exhaustion won. In the car on the way home, Vivian was quiet. Lily had fallen asleep in the back seat, exhausted from cheering. Ethan glanced over at Vivian, who was staring out the window. "You okay?" "I don't know." Her voice was small. "I thought it would feel different, like some kind of triumph, but mostly I just feel tired." "That's normal. You pushed yourself hard today." "I used to climb mountains, Ethan, actual mountains. And today I celebrated making it 8 feet up a modified wall with a support harness." She pressed her palm against the window. "How is that not depressing?" "Because 2 months ago you couldn't do it at all. 2 months ago you were still using cruelty as armor and pushing away everyone who tried to help. 2 months ago, standing for 10 seconds felt impossible." He kept his eyes on the road. 8 feet isn't 8,000 feet. But it's 8 feet more than 0, and that's something. Vivian was quiet for a long time. Then, so quietly he almost missed it. "I wanted to feel like myself again. For just a moment I wanted to feel like the person I was before. I know. But I didn't. I felt like someone new, someone I don't know yet. Maybe that's okay. Maybe that person is worth getting to know." She turned to look at him, her eyes bright with unshed tears. "What if I don't like her?" "Then you change, you grow, you become someone else." Ethan risked a glance at her. "That's the thing about rebuilding yourself. You get to decide who you become. You're not stuck with the first draft." Vivian smiled through her tears. "How are you so calm about all of this?" "I'm not calm. I'm just practiced. I've been rebuilding myself for 2 years now. Some days I like who I'm becoming. Other days I miss who I was so much it physically hurts." His voice roughened. "But I keep going because that's the only option that leads anywhere good." "Does it get easier?" "Not easier, just different." He pulled into the mansion's driveway. "But different isn't always worse." That night, after Lily was tucked into bed with a story about brave knights and dragons, Ethan found Vivian in the sunroom. She was holding Lily's drawing, the one of the wheelchair knight and the loyal dragon, and staring at it like it held the secrets of the universe. "I want to show you something," she said without preamble. She wheeled over to a cabinet Ethan had never seen her open before and pulled out a large portfolio. Inside were photographs, dozens of them, of Vivian climbing. Vivian on mountain peaks with her arms raised in triumph. Vivian scaling sheer rock faces with nothing but her hands and determination. Vivian young and fearless and whole. "I took these down after the accident," she said, laying them out on the table.
I couldn't stand looking at who I used to be. It felt like mourning someone who was still alive. And now? Now I think I was wrong. She touched one of the photos, herself at the summit of what might have been Kilimanjaro, the sun rising behind her. I wasn't mourning that person. I was erasing her, pretending she never existed because it was easier than acknowledging what I'd lost. What changed? Vivian picked up Lily's drawing. Your daughter drew me as a knight, not a broken climber, not a woman in a wheelchair. A knight with a dragon, someone brave and strong and worth drawing. She set the picture down next to the old photographs, and I realized both versions can exist. The person I was and the person I'm becoming. I don't have to erase one to accept the other. Ethan looked at the spread of images, past and present, triumph and struggle, all of it part of the same story. What are you going to do with the photos? Put them back up, not all of them. I'm not turning this place into a shrine, but enough to remember that I was brave once, that I did extraordinary things, that I'm more than just the accident and everything that came after. You are extraordinary, present tense. Vivian met his eyes, and the vulnerability there was almost painful to witness. I'm starting to believe that, slowly, because of you and Lily and this weird, impossible arrangement we've fallen into. She gestured around the sunroom. A month ago, I would have said this could never work, that letting people into my space would be suffocating. But it's not. It's the opposite. What is it? It's breathing again after holding my breath for 2 years. They sat in comfortable silence, surrounded by photographs of who Vivian had been and the quiet promise of who she might become. Outside, the garden was dark except for the motion sensor lights Ethan had installed last week. Inside, the house felt alive in a way it hadn't before. Not with activity, but with possibility. Ethan? Vivian's voice was quiet. Yeah? I'm glad you stayed. I'm glad you didn't let me scare you away. I'm glad Lily exists and talks too much and believes in broken fountains and sleeping trees. She paused. I'm just glad. Me too. It wasn't a declaration of anything. It wasn't a promise or a plan. It was just two people acknowledging that something had shifted, something fundamental and important, and neither of them quite knew what to do with it yet. But they were learning, one day at a time, one therapy session at a time, one Saturday pancake breakfast at a time. And somehow, impossibly, that was enough. 3 months passed like water finding its level, sometimes smooth, sometimes turbulent, but always moving forward. The mansion transformed in ways both visible and invisible. Lily's signs appeared throughout the garden as spring approached, encouraging not just trees but also flower beds, the broken fountain, and once, memorably, a very confused squirrel. The formal living room that nobody ever used became Lily's art studio, complete with an easel Vivian had ordered and drawing supplies that made Lily cry with joy. The gym saw daily use now, sometimes twice a day when Vivian was feeling ambitious, and the photographs went back up. Not everywhere, not obsessively, but scattered throughout the house were images of Vivian on mountains, Vivian mid-climb, Vivian triumphant at summits. They shared wall space with Lily's crayon drawings and a few photos Ethan had brought from his old life. Sarah smiling, Lily as a baby, the three of them together before everything changed. The house became a gallery of who they'd been and who they were becoming. On a Tuesday in early May, Vivian stood for 3 full minutes without support. Not at the parallel bars or in the standing frame, but in the middle of the gym with Ethan hovering nearby and Lily counting aloud. When she finally sat back in her wheelchair, trembling and sweating, Lily threw her arms around her and declared it the most amazing thing anyone has ever done ever. It's 3 minutes, Vivian said, but she was smiling. It's 3 minutes more than 0, Lily said, unknowingly echoing Ethan's words from months ago. That's what Daddy always says. More than 0 is always something. That afternoon, while Lily was at school, Vivian made an announcement. I've decided something, she said. They were in the kitchen, Ethan making lunch while Vivian reviewed something on her tablet. I'm not renewing the lease on this house. Ethan's knife slipped, nearly taking off a finger. What? The lease is up in 2 months, and I've been thinking about what I said before, about this place being a museum instead of a home. And even with you and Lily here,
Even with all the changes, it's still too big, too expensive, too much a reminder of trying to prove something I don't need to prove anymore. Ethan set the knife down carefully. So what are you going to do? I'm buying a house, a smaller one, accessible, in a real neighborhood where Lily can walk to school and we're not isolated on a hill like some tragic Gothic novel. Vivian's voice was steady, but her hands betrayed her nerves, fidgeting with her tablet. And I want you and Lily to come with me. Not as tenants or roommates or whatever we're calling this now. As family. The word hung in the air between them, heavy with meaning. Vivian, let me finish. She wheeled closer. I know this is fast. I know we've only been doing this for 3 months.
But Lily asked me yesterday if I was going to be her family forever, and I said yes without thinking. And then I realized I meant it. Her eyes were bright. You and Lily have given me something I thought I'd lost. Purpose, joy, a reason to wake up fighting, and I don't want to lose that. I don't want to lose you. Ethan's throat felt tight. This isn't just about gratitude or loneliness or... It's not. I mean, those things are part of it, but they're not the whole story. Vivian's voice was fierce now. I love Lily. I love the way she narrates her entire existence and makes signs for trees and believes broken things can be fixed. I love having her here, watching her grow, being part of her life. And me? Vivian's expression softened. You know how I feel about you. No, I don't. You need to say it. She took a breath. I love you, Ethan Hale. I love your patience and your strength and the way you stayed when any reasonable person would have left. I love that you let me be difficult and angry and broken without trying to fix me. I love that you brought your daughter into my mess and trusted me not to damage her. She paused. And I love that you make me want to be better, not because I'm supposed to, but because I want to deserve you both. Ethan's eyes burned. Vivian, you don't have to say it back. I know this is complicated. I know I come with a lot of baggage and medical issues and trauma I'm still working through. I know I'm not Sarah and I'll never be Sarah. But I'm here and I'm trying, and if you'll let me, I want to build something real with you and Lily. For a long moment, Ethan couldn't speak. He thought about the past 3 months, the way Vivian had become part of their daily rhythm, the way Lily ran to her after school with stories and drawings, the way Vivian pushed herself in therapy now, not out of anger, but out of hope, the way they'd all learned to take up space in each other's lives without apology. And he thought about Sarah, about the promise he'd made at her funeral to take care of Lily, to give her a good life, to find joy again, even though it seemed impossible. Sarah would have liked Vivian, he thought. She would have respected her strength and laughed at her dry humor and probably recruited her for the school fundraising committee within a week. I love you too, he said finally. I didn't want to. I tried not to, because it felt like betraying Sarah's memory or moving on too fast or setting Lily up for more loss, but I can't help it. You're stubborn and difficult, and you make everything harder than it needs to be, and I love you anyway. Vivian's laugh was watery. That's possibly the worst declaration of love I've ever heard. I'm not finished. Ethan moved closer, kneeling so they were eye level. You're also brave and brilliant and funny in ways that catch me off guard. You're amazing with Lily. You push yourself every single day to be better, stronger, more alive. You took a chance on us when you didn't have to. And yes, you come with baggage and complications, but so do I. So does everyone worth loving. So that's a yes? To the house, to the family, to all of it? That's a yes to all of it. On one condition. Vivian's eyes narrowed. What condition? We tell Lily together. She deserves to be part of this decision, not just informed of it. Agreed. Vivian reached out and took his hand. Though I should warn you, she's probably going to scream loud enough to shatter windows. Probably. They picked Lily up from school together that afternoon, which was unusual enough that she immediately knew something was happening. Are we getting a cat? She asked the moment she climbed into the car. Because I've been very good, and I've done all my homework, and I promise I'll take care of it myself, and not a cat, Vivian said from the front seat. Something better. Better than a cat? What's better than a cat? How do you feel about moving? Ethan asked, pulling out of the school parking lot. Lily's face fell. We have to leave? But I like our house. I like my room and the garden, and we're not leaving alone, Vivian interrupted. We're all moving together to a new house that's smaller and in a real neighborhood where you can walk to school. Lily's eyes went wide. All of us? Like together? Like a family, Ethan confirmed. The scream that followed was, as predicted, loud enough to startle a flock of birds from a nearby tree. Yes, 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 yes! Lily was bouncing in her seat with such violence that Ethan worried about the seatbelt's structural integrity. Can I decorate my room? Can we get a dog? Can we plant a garden? Let's start with finding a house and work our way up, Vivian said, but she was laughing. They spent the next 2 weeks looking at houses. Lily accompanied them to every showing, providing detailed critiques that ranged from, "This kitchen is sad," to "This backyard has excellent tree climbing potential." Vivian evaluated accessibility, ramps, doorway widths, bathroom modifications. Ethan focused on practical matters like commute times and school districts, and whether they could actually afford the mortgage. They found the house on a quiet street in a neighborhood that felt alive. It was a ranch-style home with wide doorways and minimal stairs, a backyard with mature trees, and a front porch that wrapped around 2 sides. It needed work. The kitchen was dated, the bathrooms needed updating, and the master bedroom was smaller than what Vivian was used to. But it had something the mansion never did. It felt like home. "This is the one," Lily announced, standing in the middle of the empty living room with her arms spread wide. "I can feel it. This is where we're supposed to be." Vivian wheeled through the space, testing corners and clearances. "The doorways are wide enough. I can access every room. The bathroom has space for modifications." She looked at Ethan. "What do you think?" "I think it's perfect." He stood in the doorway to what would be Lily's room, imagining it filled with her art and books and personality. "I think we should make an offer." They made the offer that afternoon. It was accepted 2 days later. The month between acceptance and closing was a controlled hurricane of activity. They packed up the mansion, separating what belonged to Vivian from what belonged to the rental. Gloria agreed to come with them. "Someone needs to make sure you all eat vegetables," she said, but her eyes were wet when she said it. Vivian's physical therapist, she'd hired a new one after demonstrating she could work with people who challenged her, came to evaluate the new house and recommend modifications. Ethan coordinated contractors for the bathroom renovations and ramp installation. Lily made detailed floor plans showing where every piece of furniture should go and which walls needed her artwork. And through it all, Vivian pushed herself harder than ever. She worked with the walker now, taking slow, careful steps with Ethan's support. Her legs were stronger, capable of bearing weight for minutes at a time. She'd never walk normally, the doctors were clear about that, but she was mobile in ways she hadn't been in 2 years. "I want to walk into our new house," she told Ethan one evening during therapy. "Not be carried, not wheeled, walk." "That's ambitious." "I know, but I've spent 2 years being realistic about my limitations. I want to be ambitious about my possibilities for once." She trained like she was preparing for a summit. Every day she pushed a little further, stood a little longer, took a few more steps. Ethan spotted her, encouraged her, and occasionally forced her to rest when her ambition outpaced her body's capability. Lily made a chart tracking Vivian's progress, complete with gold stars for each milestone. 5 steps today, that's 2 more than yesterday. At this rate, you'll be running marathons by Christmas. "Let's aim for walking to the mailbox first," Vivian said, but she was smiling. The night before they moved, Ethan found Vivian in the sunroom of the mansion one last time. She was surrounded by packed boxes, staring out at the garden where the fountain, thanks to Lily's persistence and a plumber's expertise, now worked again. Water bubbled and flowed, bringing life to something that had been broken for years. "Having second thoughts?" Ethan asked, sitting beside her. Terrified thoughts mostly. Vivian didn't take her eyes off the fountain. "What if this doesn't work? What if we're making a mistake?" "Then we'll make it work. Or we'll make a different mistake." He reached for her hand. "We've already survived the hard part, learning to trust each other. Everything else is just logistics." "Just logistics," Vivian repeated. "Like buying a house together and blending a family and learning to be partners when I'm still figuring out how to be a functional human. Nobody's fully functional. We're all just pretending and hoping nobody notices." She laughed,
the sound echoing in the empty room. Lily's asleep, right? Passed out an hour ago, moving day excitement wore her out. Good. Vivian turned to face him fully. Because I need to say something, and I need her not to interrupt with commentary about dragons or trees or whatever tangent her brain takes. I'm listening. I'm scared, Vivian said simply. Not of moving or the house or even the commitment. I'm scared of being happy, because for 2 years misery was safe. It was predictable. I knew how to be angry and broken. But being happy, being hopeful, that's terrifying.
Because now I have something to lose. Ethan squeezed her hand. I know that fear. I lived with it for 2 years after Sarah died. Every time Lily laughed, every time I felt a moment of joy, I'd feel guilty, like I was betraying Sarah's memory by moving forward. How did you get past it? I realized Sarah wouldn't want me to stop living. She'd want Lily to have a father who was present, who found joy, who modeled resilience. He paused, and I realized that loving again didn't mean loving Sarah less. The heart doesn't work like that. It just expands. Vivian's eyes glistened. I want to believe that. Then believe it. We're not replacing what we lost. We're building something new. And that's allowed. She nodded, wiping her eyes. Okay. Tomorrow we move into our house, our family's house, and I'm going to walk in on my own 2 feet even if it kills me. It won't kill you, but you might be sore for a week. Worth it. Moving day arrived with perfect weather, sunny but not hot, the kind of May morning that feels like a promise. The moving truck arrived at 8, and by 10 the caravan of furniture and boxes was making its way across the city to their new home. Lily rode with Gloria in Gloria's sensible sedan, providing running commentary on every landmark they passed. Ethan drove the truck with the bulk of their belongings, and Vivian drove herself, having mastered hand controls months ago, her wheelchair secured in the specially modified SUV she'd purchased last month. They pulled up to the new house in sequence, like a parade arriving at its destination. The contractors had finished the ramp the day before. It led from the driveway to the front door, sturdy and permanent. But Vivian didn't head for the ramp. Instead, she transferred to her walker, a sleek, modern thing that looked more like something from a tech company than a medical supply store. Vivian, you don't have to, Ethan started. Yes, I do. Her voice was firm. I've been practicing all week. I can do this. Lily grabbed Ethan's hand, her eyes wide. She's really going to walk? She's really going to try. Gloria stood by the front door, her hand over her mouth. Ethan positioned himself next to Vivian, close enough to catch her if she fell, but far enough to give her space to succeed. Vivian gripped the walker's handles. She took a breath, then another. Then she took a step. Her left leg moved forward, shaky but deliberate. Her right leg followed. The walker supported most of her weight, but her legs were working, carrying her forward inch by precious inch. Another step, then another. The path from the driveway to the front door was maybe 30 feet. It might as well have been a marathon. Lily was crying, silent tears streaming down her face as she watched. Gloria had her hand pressed to her mouth, her own eyes wet. Ethan walked beside Vivian, his heart in his throat, watching this woman who'd spent 2 years convinced she'd never walk again prove herself wrong. Halfway to the door, Vivian's legs started to shake. She paused, breathing hard, sweat beading on her forehead. You can stop, Ethan said gently. You've already proved. I'm not stopping. Her voice was strained but determined. I'm going to walk into my house, into our house. She took another step, then another. 20 feet, 25. Her arms were trembling now, taking more weight as her legs fatigued, but she kept moving. 28 feet, 29. At 30 feet, with Gloria holding the door open and Lily clutching Ethan's hand so hard his fingers went numb, Vivian Cross walked through the front door of her new home on her own 2 feet. She made it 3 more steps before her legs gave out completely. Ethan caught her, helped her into her wheelchair that Gloria had wisely positioned just inside the door. Vivian sat there, breathing hard, face flushed, tears streaming down her face. I did it, she whispered. I walked. I actually walked. Lily launched herself at Vivian,
hugging her so tightly that Vivian laughed through her tears. "That was the coolest thing I've ever seen. You walked into our house." "I did." Vivian held Lily close, her eyes finding Ethan's over Lily's shoulder. "We're home." "We're home," he echoed. The rest of the day dissolved into the chaos of unpacking. Boxes were opened, furniture was arranged and rearranged, and Lily provided directorial guidance that was only occasionally helpful. By evening, the house was still mostly full of boxes, but the important rooms were functional. They ordered pizza for dinner, Vivian's suggestion, because nobody should have to cook on moving day, and ate, sitting on the floor of the living room because the dining table wasn't assembled yet. "This is the best day ever," Lily announced through a mouthful of pepperoni. "We have a house, and we're a family, and Vivian walked and we're eating pizza on the floor." "The floor eating is really the pinnacle of the experience," Vivian said dryly, but she was smiling. After dinner, Ethan got Lily ready for bed in her new room. She was so exhausted from the day's excitement that she barely made it through the bedtime story before her eyes closed. "Daddy?" she mumbled, already half asleep. "Yeah, Jelly Bean? Is this forever? The house and Vivian and all of it?" Ethan's chest tightened. "Do you want it to be forever?" "Yeah, I like it. I like having Vivian. She's not mommy, but she's Vivian, and that's good." "It is good." "And Daddy? I think Mommy would like her too. I think she'd be happy we found Vivian." Ethan had to close his eyes against the tears. "I think you're right, Jelly Bean. I think Mommy would be very happy." Lily nodded, satisfied, and drifted off to sleep. Ethan found Vivian on the back porch, staring up at the stars. She'd transferred there on her own, her wheelchair navigating the new space with practiced ease. "Lily asleep?" she asked without turning. "Out cold." He sat on the porch steps beside her chair. "She said something interesting." "What's that?" "She said Sarah would like you, that she'd be happy we found you." Vivian was quiet for a moment. "Do you think that's true?" "Yeah, I do." Ethan looked up at the same stars Vivian was watching. Sarah believed in moving forward and finding joy even after loss. She'd want Lily to have a full life with people who love her, and she'd want me to be happy. "Are you? Happy?" Terrified and exhausted and stressed about money and worried about screwing this up? Ethan smiled. "Absolutely. But yeah, I'm happy. Happier than I've been in a long time." Vivian reached down and took his hand. "I have something to show you. Come with me?" She led him to what would be her office, a bright room at the back of the house with windows overlooking the yard. Inside was a desk, a computer, and on the walls, blueprints and designs. "What is this?" Ethan asked. "A business plan." Vivian wheeled to the desk and pulled up documents on the computer. "I've been working on it for a month. An adaptive recreation company. Climbing, hiking, camping, all modified for people with disabilities. I have the experience, the contacts, the knowledge of what people need, because I am one of those people now." Ethan stared at the detailed plans. "This is incredible. It's ambitious. It'll take capital and time and a lot of work, but I think I can do it. I think I can build something that matters." She looked up at him. "And I was hoping you'd be part of it. Co-founder, operations manager, whatever title fits, because you're good at this, at seeing what people need and figuring out how to provide it." "Vivian, I'm not a businessman. You're someone who stayed when everyone else left. Someone who pushed me without breaking me. Someone who understands that limitations don't have to mean the end of possibilities." She gestured at the plans. "I need that perspective. I need your honesty and your patience and your ability to tell me when I'm being an idiot." Ethan looked at the blueprints, at the financial projections, at the mission statement that read, "Making adventure accessible for everyone." He thought about the past 6 months, about how much had changed, about the life they were building together. "Okay," he said. "Okay? Okay. Let's build something together. A business, a family, a life. All of it." Vivian's smile was radiant. All of it. They sat there in the office, planning and dreaming, until Gloria appeared in the doorway. "It's midnight.
Whatever scheme you're cooking up can wait until morning. Go to bed." But she was smiling. "All three of you have a big day tomorrow. First full day in the new house. First day of the rest of your lives."
"That's very philosophical, Gloria," Vivian said. "I have my moments. Now go. Sleep. I'll handle breakfast in the morning." "Saturday pancakes?" Ethan asked. "Is there any other kind of breakfast worth having?" The weeks that followed were a controlled explosion of change and growth. The business plan became a reality. Vivian filed the paperwork, secured initial funding, and started reaching out to contacts in the adaptive sports community. Ethan quit the few odd jobs he'd been holding on to and threw himself into building the company alongside her. Lily thrived in her new school, making friends with the ease of someone who'd learned resilience young.
She brought classmates home to see the garden they were planting and the treehouse Ethan was building, and to meet Vivian, who'd become a minor celebrity among 7-year-olds for being the cool climbing lady with the awesome wheelchair. Gloria transformed the kitchen into command center, feeding them all while occasionally reminding them that vegetables existed and should be consumed. And Vivian continued to push herself. She worked with her physical therapist 3 times a week now, supplementing with daily practice at home. She could walk with the walker for extended periods, navigate stairs with assistance, and had even returned to the adaptive climbing gym twice more, each time going a little higher. But more than the physical progress, Vivian had changed in ways that couldn't be measured in steps or seconds. She laughed more. She let people help without treating it as defeat. She made plans that extended beyond the next therapy session. She lived instead of just survived. 2 months after moving in, on a Saturday morning after pancakes, Vivian made an announcement. "I have something to ask you both." She looked nervous, which was unusual enough that Ethan felt his stomach tighten. "And I need you to be honest, because this is important." "What is it?" Lily asked, syrup on her chin as always. Vivian reached into her pocket and pulled out a small box. When she opened it, there were 2 rings inside, one larger, one smaller. "I know we've only been doing this for 6 months. I know we're already living together and building a business and basically functioning as a family, but I want to make it official." She looked at Ethan first. "I want to marry you, not because I need to or because it makes practical sense, but because I love you and I want everyone to know that we chose each other." Then she turned to Lily. "And I want to adopt you if you'll let me, because you're already my daughter in every way that matters, and I want it to be official. I want to be your mom, not replacing the mom you lost, but being an additional mom who loves you and will always be here for you." Lily's eyes were enormous. She looked at Ethan. "Daddy?" "It's your decision, Jellybean, whatever you want." Lily turned back to Vivian. "Would I call you Mom?" "You can call me whatever feels right. Vivian, Mom, anything. The label doesn't matter as much as the relationship." "And you'd really be my mom? Like, officially?" "Officially, legally, permanently." Lily launched herself at Vivian with enough force that the wheelchair rolled backward. "Yes, yes, yes, yes! I want you to be my mom. I want us to be a real family." Vivian held her close, tears streaming down her face. "We're already a real family, sweetheart. This just makes it official." Over Lily's head, Vivian looked at Ethan. "And you? What do you say?" Ethan crossed to them, kneeling beside the wheelchair so they were all at the same level. "I say yes to all of it. Marriage, adoption, making this permanent. Yes." He kissed her then properly, while Lily made exaggerated gagging sounds and then immediately started planning the wedding. "Can we have it in the garden? Can I be the flower girl? Can we have a dragon cake? How about we start with telling Gloria and work our way up to dragon cakes?" Ethan suggested. Gloria, who'd been listening from the kitchen, appeared in the doorway with tears on her face. "Congratulations, all of you. I'm so happy I could burst." "Please don't burst," Lily said seriously. "We need you to make the wedding cake." The wedding was small and perfect. They held it in their backyard on a September afternoon when the weather finally broke from summer's heat. Lily was indeed the flower girl, wearing a dress she'd insisted needed more sparkle until it looked like a disco ball in fabric form. Gloria officiated, having gotten ordained online specifically for this purpose. Vivian walked down the aisle, not smoothly, not perfectly, but on her own 2 feet with her walker. Ethan met her halfway, offering his arm for the last few steps. They exchanged vows they'd written themselves. Ethan promised to stay when things got hard, to push Vivian to be her best self, and to always make sure they had Saturday pancakes. Vivian promised to let Ethan help her, to be honest about her struggles, and to love Lily as fiercely as she loved him. And then, because Lily had insisted on being included, they added a third set of vows. Vivian sat in her wheelchair at sitting height and looked Lily in the eye. I promise to be the best mom I can be. I promise to show up for you always. I promise to believe in you even when you don't believe in yourself. And I promise that you will always, always be loved. Lily threw her arms around Vivian's neck. I promise to love you forever and ever, even when I'm a teenager and Daddy says I'll be difficult. Hey, Ethan protested, but he was laughing through tears. When Gloria pronounced them married and Ethan kissed Vivian, Lily cheered so loudly that the neighbors 3 houses down probably heard. The reception was an extension of the ceremony, small, intimate, filled with people who mattered. Vivian's physical therapist came, the instructor from the adaptive climbing gym, a few of Lily's friends from school with their parents. Marcus didn't come, but Vivian realized she didn't care. That chapter was closed. They danced in the garden, or rather Ethan and Lily danced while Vivian watched from her wheelchair with a smile that wouldn't quit. Then Lily demanded that Vivian dance too, and they figured out a modified version where Lily stood on Vivian's footrests and they spun in circles until everyone was dizzy and laughing. As the sun set and the string lights came on, Lily's addition to the garden naturally, Ethan found Vivian by the fountain. The fountain Lily had insisted they fix, that now burbled peacefully under the darkening sky. Happy? He asked. Ridiculously. She reached for his hand. A year ago, I was alone in that mansion, convinced I'd never be anything but angry and broken. And now I'm married, I'm adopting a daughter, I'm building a business, I'm walking again. It's almost absurd how much has changed. You changed it. You did the work. We did the work. All 3 of us. She looked toward where Lily was showing Gloria her latest drawing, a family portrait featuring 2 adults, a child, and approximately 17 dragons. She saved me, you know. That first day you brought her. She walked in and decided we were friends, and I couldn't fight that kind of determined optimism. She has that effect on people. And you saved me by staying, by refusing to let me push you away. Vivian turned to face him fully. I love you, Ethan Hale. I love the life we're building. I love that we're messy and complicated and still figuring things out. I love all of it. I love you too, and I'm proud of you for everything you've overcome, everything you've built, everything you've become. I couldn't have done it alone. Maybe not, but you're the one who had to choose to change. We just walked beside you while you did. Vivian pulled him down for a kiss, deep and sweet and full of promise. When they broke apart, Lily was standing nearby with her hands on her hips. Are you two done being mushy? Because Gloria says it's time for cake, and I've been very patient. Very patient, Ethan agreed, trying not to laugh. They cut the cake, not dragon-shaped as it turned out, but decorated with a mountain scene that made Vivian's eyes suspiciously bright. They toasted with sparkling cider. They laughed and talked and celebrated this strange, beautiful family they'd built from broken pieces. And later, when the guests had gone home and Lily was asleep in her bed, Ethan and Vivian sat on the back porch under the stars. Thank you, Vivian said quietly. For what? For not giving up on me. For bringing Lily that day. For staying through every terrible thing I did to try to make you leave. She leaned her head on his shoulder. For seeing something worth saving when I couldn't see it myself. You were always worth saving. You just needed to believe it. I believe it now. They sat in comfortable silence, listening to the fountain and the night sounds of their neighborhood. Inside, their daughter slept peacefully. Around them, the garden they'd planted together was thriving. Above them, stars wheeled in ancient patterns. It wasn't the life either of them had planned. It wasn't the life they'd dreamed of in their separate pasts, but it was theirs, built from loss and pain and the stubborn refusal to let brokenness be the end of the story. Vivian Cross had spent 2 years convinced she'd never climb again, never love again, never be anything but a shadow of who she was. And she'd been right in a way. She'd never climb Everest. She'd never be that fearless mountaineer who thought she could conquer anything. But she'd become something else. Someone else. A woman who'd learned that strength wasn't about never falling. It was about choosing to stand back up, even when standing hurt. A wife who'd learned that love didn't require perfection. A mother who'd learned that family wasn't about biology. It was about showing up, day after day, even when you were scared. And Ethan Hale, who'd spent 2 years drowning in grief and responsibility, had learned that moving forward didn't mean forgetting. That loving again didn't diminish what he'd lost. That Sarah would always be part of their story, but she didn't have to be the end of it. And Lily, who'd lost her mother too young and lived through instability that no child should face, had learned that broken things could be fixed, that people could change, that hope wasn't naive, it was necessary. Together, they'd built something impossible, a family, a home, a life. And it was more than enough. It was everything. As midnight approached and exhaustion finally caught up with them, Vivian squeezed Ethan's hand. "Let's go to bed. Mrs. Hale needs her rest." "Mrs. Hale," Ethan repeated, testing out the name. "I like the sound of that." "Me too." They went inside, locking the door behind them, sealing in all the warmth and light and love they'd created. In her room, Lily slept peacefully, dreaming of dragons and adventures. In the kitchen, evidence of celebration waited to be cleaned in the morning. In the office, blueprints for their business promised a future they'd build together. And in their bedroom, Ethan and Vivian fell asleep tangled together, two broken people who'd found wholeness in each other, proving that the best stories aren't about never falling down. They're about learning to stand back up, together.